Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Everyone. Domineering Druid, the Queen asks me to calm down. Chapter 61. During the survival period of the boss on each floor, the passage to the next floor is closed. The passage can only be activated after the boss is killed. But Chen Yu and the old principal did not enter the second floor. Instead, they rested at the boss refresh point nearby. Chen Yu sat cross-legged on the ground, supporting his chin with one hand, and entered a state of thinking. The old principal looked at Chen Yu with a complicated face. He didn't expect that Chen Yu had completed the initial understanding in less than 2 days. In fact, half of the day and a half was spent fighting with the Big Knife Ghost King. Chen Yu only had 1 day to hone and understand. At the beginning, Chen Yu still fought without any rules, like a street fight. But soon, under the siege of ghosts, he began to find the way. Compared with the help brought by professional ability and talent, this kind of learning efficiency is the real foundation of Chen Yu. Professional and strong talent only determine a person's upper limit. But oneself can determine how high a person's lower limit is. He believed that even if Chen Yu did not have the talent of soul sacrifice, he could still become very strong. The gap was just a matter of time. After entering the national vision, Chen Yu's talent was reported to the national leaders. This is a prerequisite for key training. If you can't be honest with the country, how can you expect the country to go all out to help you? From the 4 heavenly kings to the senior professionals of the major military regions, members of the association. Anyone with talent and ability has basically been reported and registered. The old principal sighed over there, while Chen Yu was carefully thinking back to his previous feelings. He now understood why West Mountain Ghost Cave was suitable for training. The monsters here have completely integrated various skills into their own martial arts. There have been legends of martial arts in Xiaoguo since ancient times, but they have been generally eliminated after entering modernization. Some of the 723 special martial arts recorded in the past also disappeared. Unexpectedly, after the Red Moon, it has gained an alternative new life in the new era. The monsters in the Ghost Cave, just like in martial arts novels, have turned their skills into their own magic. Their skills are not simply accumulated power and then released. Instead, they are released during the attack through special movements and special connections. Just like the skills are tricks in martial arts. If monsters can do this, humans can do it too. The key is that you must clearly understand the nature of the skills. Then connect the skills with yourself and mobilize the energy in your body in advance during the attack process. After the energy is in place, you can stimulate the skills and release the effect instantly. It sounds simple, but if you want to be proficient, you still need to practice day after day. Chen Yu's final duel with the Big Knife Ghost King is a constant attempt. Rather than a fight of life and death, it is better to say that it is a competition. The skills of the Big Knife Ghost King are the same as those of ordinary Big Knife Ghosts. But the individual attributes and skill power are more than twice as powerful. Chen Yu finally changed into the form of a giant earth bear to solve it. Through the battle with the Big Knife Ghost King, he has been able to instantly use various skills in the giant bear form. Thinking of this, Chen Yu transformed again. The 10-meter-tall giant bear appeared on the spot like a small mountain, and a murderous aura continued to escape. The earth giant bear has 3 skills. Skill 1, Crushing Slap. The slap with double the power, causing dizziness and shock effects. The output effect is very strong, and it can be called the strongest killing move in his hand. But the disadvantage is that there is a stagnation time of about 2 seconds before the move. It is easy to dodge when encountering an agile enemy. In the end, it can only rely on the aftermath of the attack to hurt and affect the enemy, and the effect is greatly weakened. Skill 2, Earth Barrier. Extract a large amount of earth elements from the earth to cover itself and form armor. It can double the defense ability. But there is also a weakness. When a strong attack falls on the armor will automatically stimulate the power of the earth element to defend the attack. In this case, the defense of other parts will be weakened. Before, the Great Sword Ghost King used a saber to deceive Chen Yu's earth armor and finally broke his defense. As for the last skill 3, Wild Charge. The Great Sword Ghost King can't do anything about this skill with built-in lock. Because Wild Charge not only has built-in lock, but also immune to control. No matter how strong the Great Sword Ghost King is, he has not reached the level of the wind ape at the beginning, and was caught tightly. Chen Yu mobilized the energy in his body and began to practice skills. The most important one is the crushing slap. If the pre-swing time of the crushing slap can be shortened, his combat power will probably soar several times. The training process was very rough, and a giant bear smashed the earth and shook the mountains. Time passed quickly for 24 hours. The transmission channel that originally appeared on the ground slowly disappeared. In its place, a huge evil ghost emitting black mist appeared. Piandao Ghost King, LV 45. Attributes: Strength 10,000, Agility 12,000, Constitution 6,500, Spirit 6,000, Will 6,800. The king of the Piandao ghosts is a ghost king who grew up in day-to-day fighting. Be careful, its knife is very fast. Skills: same as Piandao Ghost. Compared with the size of the big knife Ghost King, the Piandao Ghost King is only more than 3 meters tall. The whole body is covered with a layer of tattered leather armor, and the eyes emit faint blue fire. The most eye-catching thing about the whole body is the knife in its hand. The knife is more than 2 meters long, without any reflection, and there is a slight afterimage dragging between the dances. Asterisk. The Piandao Ghost King shouted fiercely, and his eyes were directly attracted by Chen Yu in the form of the earth giant bear. The blade in his hand turned around, bringing out a series of illusory blade shadows. Chen Yu summoned the earth barrier and pounced on the Blade Ghost King with the same golden body. Boom! The Blade Ghost King dodged the swift attack, and the opponent instantly chopped him dozens of times. The earth barrier's defense transfer couldn't even keep up with the Blade Ghost King's attack speed, and it was instantly broken. Fortunately, the giant bear's fur was also thick, and the blade didn't cause much damage. Chen Yu's vitality recovered in less than a second. After just one fight, Chen Yu saw it. The Blade Ghost King's attack method is much more ghostly than that of the Big Blade Ghost King. The Big Blade Ghost King opened and closed his mouth, while the Blade Ghost King bullied himself and cut with a quick knife. Chen Yu didn't even think about it, and the earth giant bear disappeared instantly and turned into the Emperor Ape Beetle. Facing an opponent like the Blade Ghost King, the earth giant bear is a living target. In order to offset the increase brought by the change in form, Chen Yu had already added several more binding rings to himself. At this time, the attributes of the Emperor Ape Beetle were not much stronger than those of the Blade Ghost King. The old principal sat on the recliner leisurely. Chen Yu had already figured out the trick, and he didn't think that the Blade Ghost King could cause much trouble to Chen Yu. The main reason for Chen Yu to fight the Ghost King was to let him absorb enough experience from the Ghost King. Ordinary ghosts and monsters, of course, also integrate their skills into themselves. But the Ghost King seemed to be more superb. If you can practice like the Ghost King, facing people who don't have this ability, it will definitely be oppressive. The professional strongmen of Sha country can stand at the top of Blue Star, almost all relying on this training. This also made the United States and other countries unbearable, and they have asked the Garden Country to open the West Mountain East Cave dozens of times. The Legion stationed in the West Mountain Ghost Cave has an average of 1 battle with secret intruders every month. Ghost Cave Camp. Li Yu has given up the idea of AA entering the secret realm, because he thinks Chen Yu will not come out so soon. He also experienced the West Mountain Ghost Cave and knew that after mastering the ability, he still had to practice repeatedly. So Chen Yu would most likely stay there and fight the West Mountain ghosts. If Chen Yu quickly entered the second floor and killed the second floor boss in a short time, he might have to go in and remind the other party. But since the old principal was there, Li Yu didn't think Chen Yu would make such a mistake. In this case, it would be a waste of time for him to stay here. It would be better to study which other secret realm is suitable for Li Wei to practice now. While he was studying the other mythical secret realms, Li Wei and Shu He also came to the stone archway. Shu He was still as energetic as ever, heroic and valiant. But Li Wei had a face full of doubts about life, and he even walked weakly. Li Yu frowned. Li Hui's strength was 1 level stronger than Shu He, and it was reasonable to defeat Shu He. Why did Li Wei behave like this after the sparring? Being watched by his uncle, Li Wei sent the battle video of the martial arts arena directly to Li Yu. In order to facilitate the professionals to review, find problems and strengthen themselves. The martial arts arena has a built-in photography function, and Li Wei copied a copy when he left. Li Yu finished watching the video and couldn't help shaking his head. Throughout the battle, Li Hui's performance was flawless. After summoning the Sword Soul, the attack was extremely sharp, like a crazy rainstorm. He brought the characteristics of the Sword Soul warrior profession to the fullest, suppressing Shuhi so that he couldn't fight back. But Shuhi defended like a rock. The Brilliant Knight is actually more inclined to the battlefield and auxiliary. Shuhi's skills are basically various auras. She stacked the auras to make herself play abilities far beyond her rank. Excitement, anti-injury, revenge, fanaticism, recovery AAAAA. God knows how Shuhi, who is only level 50, mastered nearly 10 aura skills. In theory, a Brilliant Knight can master 1 aura every 10 levels, but she has now exceeded twice the number. Facing such Shuhi, Li Hui's shortcomings were exposed. After resisting the most violent attack for 20 minutes, Li Wei couldn't catch up in one breath, and was hit by Shuhi's defensive counterattack and collapsed directly. The second candidate lost to the third candidate. This result will also be uploaded to the official database simultaneously. I believe that it won't be long before Shuhi will replace Li Wei as the second. No wonder his expression is so lost. Tisk. Li Yu shook his head. Originally, he brought Li Wei here just to continue to hone Li Wei through the Ghost Cave. As long as Li Wei can master the method of integrating this skill into himself, Shuhi will not be able to defend. After thinking about it, Li Yu didn't say much. After saying goodbye to Shuhi, he took Li Wei to other secret realms. Shuhi stood in front of the stone archway, and was going to continue waiting for Chen Yu here. One of the two most powerful people of the new generation has been tested by her. Shuhi also wanted to see if the remaining one was really that outstanding. When the elder notified her before, Shuhi did not hesitate and went to South City immediately. Unfortunately, she was a step late. Chen Yu followed the old principal and left to train herself. When she finally got the information from her father, Chen Yu had already entered the ghost cave. However, looking at the faint ghost fire burning on the stone archway, Shuhi felt that Chen Yu should not let her down. He was able to grow to such a level within a month of awakening, and he also received the attention of the Elf Royal Court. Whether it is individual strength or relationship network, it is currently the target of the first-class attention of Xiaoguo. Shuhi's organizational mission this time was originally one of the most concerned tasks of Xiaoguo. The organization she belongs to also has a good status in the new world. This mission is a test for her by the organization. If Shuhi can pass the test with a perfect rating, she will become the chief of the level in the organization. The position of the chief represents great power. At that time, Xiaoguo can even integrate into the New World King with the help of Shuhi. Now the reputation of aliens in the New World is generally not good. Shuhi's breakthrough is one of the hopes of Xiaoguo. Chen Yu and the old principal know nothing about the things outside the secret realm. At this time, Chen Yu is fighting with the Piandao Ghost King, and gradually suppresses the Ghost King. After paying half of his vitality, Chen Yu finally adapted to the fighting style of the Piandao Ghost King. This allows him to better understand the Ghost King's use of skills in the next battle. And the old principal is not idle, and will give Chen Yu some general skills beside. Professionals are all human beings, and they will have something in common. Xiaoguo's research in this area has long deduced some fixed skills and rules. The old principal did not teach Chen Yu all at once. Instead, when Chen Yu encounters a corresponding situation, the group will speak up and give him some advice. If it were someone else, they might need to fight the Ghost King continuously to learn all these skills. But it was different for Chen Yu. He could now perfectly control the rhythm of the battle with the Ghost King. He neither killed the Ghost King nor was killed by the Ghost King, and the battle was extremely fierce. In one battle, he could gather all the situations. The old principal was also very happy to teach. It was always refreshing to meet such a student. The old principal thought that Chen Yu was very talented, but he didn't know that this was the influence of the new characteristics of the Emperor Ape Beetle. Martial body. Passive. The physical instincts obtained by the martial arts master after thousands of tempers, call the body of martial arts. The Wind Ape of the Wind Elf clan is the martial arts master of the clan. Even after dying in battle, being eroded by the abyss and hatched into a monster, it still remained. This is the core ability of the wind ape and its pride. Now it has merged with the emperor beetle and activated the beast spirit, and it has also been passed on to Chen Yu. The body of martial arts is extremely sharp in battle. Once Chen Yu is hit by the Blade Ghost King's attack, it will never work again. This is the physical instinct of the martial arts master, which is more powerful than the master's initiation in the novel. After all, initiation only gives power, while martial arts gives Chen Yu martial arts instinct. After transforming into the Emperor Ape Beetle, Chen Yu found that it was easier for him to understand the fusion of skills. Now he can easily release various skills with his own actions. Even if it is a skill that he has not mastered, he can simulate and play a similar effect. The strength of martial arts is so terrifying. Chen Yu was delighted and realized that this was the biggest benefit brought to him by the fusion of the Emperor Ape Beetle. The young Emperor Ape Beast spirit was also immersed in the joy brought by the battle. Chen Yu could clearly feel that the prison itself was completely integrated into the Beast Soul King. Chen Yu's every move was the Emperor Ape's every move. In this way, the Emperor Ape Beast spirit is also growing rapidly. Bang! The armor of one arm blocked the blade, and the other arm shook, hitting the Blade Ghost King's middle door wide open. The remaining two arms of the Emperor Ape Beetle formed clenched fists and shrank at the waist, and suddenly exploded. Boom! Boom! One punch created an air explosion. One punch created a whirlwind. The Blade Ghost King screamed, and was directly broken by the two punches, completely destroyed. The passage from the first floor to the second floor slowly appeared again. Chen Yu let out a long breath and looked back at the old principal. Principal, let's go to the next floor. There is no place to learn from the monsters on the first floor, including the Ghost King. The Emperor Ape Beetle held his head high and looked particularly tall. The old principal nodded, without doubting Chen Yu's words, stepped forward to take away the things dropped by the Blade Ghost King, and the two entered the passage. All fixed routines lack adaptability and flexibility. When a person has matured in skills, his form should be an invisible form. This growth and maturity process is like shaping a piece of ice into water of various shapes. Only without form can you have all forms. A famous kung fu star in Xia country once said this. Chen Yu now deeply agrees with this. Sure enough, philosophy can always inspire you in unexpected places. Understand and integrate your skill form and make it your instinct. Then when you attack, you will no longer be bound by how to release the skill. Instead, you will consider when to release it and the perfection of the release. You can consider releasing the first half of the skill, and then cancel it and replace it with a general attack. You can also use continuous general attacks to give pressure, and then seize the opportunity to release a small power skill. In this learning process, the passive martial arts of Fengyuan brought great help to Chen Yu. This reduced a lot of learning time for him. Because he already has the passive martial arts master who has been tempered by thousands of hammers. Like a willow branch in the wind, moving with the wind. Just as the Kung Fu star said, when the opponent attacks, your body will naturally react. Qishan Ghost Cave, the second floor has two more monsters than the first floor, the bull-headed ghost and the horse-headed ghost. But the essential difference is not big, the difference is only in the fighting style. Chen Yu has mastered how to integrate skills into changes. The next thing to learn is how to perfectly connect skills to every move. Just like the old principal, an elemental mage, who played the style of a martial artist. The wind element in his hands is qi, a weapon, and a protective gear, and can do everything. Chen Yu felt that if it weren't for the injury that year, the old principal would definitely grow into a king-level figure. The old principal didn't think so much, and still guided Chen Yu wholeheartedly. The second floor was quickly pushed to the boss stronghold. Chen Yu spent half a day to kill the gatekeeper boss. The two then entered the third floor. 2 days later, the fourth floor. 5 days later, the fifth floor. Shu He and the garrison troops who were guarding outside the stone archway saw the lit will-o'-the-wisp. Everyone was shocked by the strength of this mysterious candidate. Even the elders and senior officials far away in the capital were paying attention to Chen Yu's progress. At the same time, the top 10 candidates on the list began to stabilize and all had good performances. The professional association immediately reached an agreement with the Elders' Council to formulate a training plan. The tentative name is the Dragon and Phoenix Growth Plan. Xiaoguo will designate a series of publicity and training for the top 10 candidates on the list. At the same time, the top 10 candidates will also be involved in the relevant positions of the national professional system. Let them participate in Xiaoguo's various explorations and developments of the new world in advance. They will be the four kings and the hope of Xiaoguo's future. Because major countries and forces around the world are also carrying out similar actions at the same time. The existence of the king-level combat power shows the current strength in the whole. And the growth of the next generation represents potential in the future. Whoever can show extraordinary results in these two aspects will become the person who speaks in the new era. Xiaoguo cannot fall behind in this regard. After all, Xiaoguo has a vast territory and a large number of secret realms, which makes the world jealous. I don't know how many forces want to come to Xiaoguo to share a piece of the pie. If Xiaoguo does not want to repeat the mistakes of history, it must show strong enough strength and attitude. During this period, the names of Li Wei, Shu He and others began to appear frequently in major programs. Even on the live broadcast platform, there are several more special topics dedicated to explaining the strong people of the younger generation. Many new awakeners, especially young people, are attracted by them. Like a beacon in the blue sea, the appearance of 10 young people attracted everyone's attention. Next, as long as Xiaoguo guides them in accordance with the rules, the atmosphere of Xiaoguo's professionals can be further optimized. Among them, there are unquestionable 10-person lists, and some are widely criticized. And the most concerned one is naturally Chen Yu, who ranks first. There is only a name and simple information such as occupation and level. Apart from that, don't think about finding any information about Chen Yu on the internet. Nanchang University has become the most concerned school for this reason. Previously, a large number of students from Jingcheng University transferred to Nanchang University through various means and were also exposed. The whole network was shocked, and everyone wanted to know what magic Chen Yu had. Yuan Yunying stroked her forehead and sat at the table. Mimi and others sat next to her, looking at the people behind the table with complicated expressions. On the table, there were more than a dozen resumes. These were submitted by students who recently transferred to Nanchang University. In addition to listing their occupations and abilities in the information, these people also specially marked their family background. Without exception, they are all descendants of elders, or perhaps descendants of meritorious servicemen of the Xia Kingdom. In the capital or in their local area, these people are the masters of the road. Most of them are stronger and have better backgrounds than Yuan Yunying. The so-called Jinhua of Nanjing University, the eldest daughter of the Yuan group, has no advantage in front of them. But facing Yuan Yunying, they all behaved very humbly. Everyone was smiling and gentle, but there was a question and there must be an answer. Yuan Yunying knew in her heart why these people were so nice. It was all because of Chen Yu. Before the list of the 10 dragons and phoenixes was released, these people came to Nanjing University in advance. Unfortunately, Chen Yu has only stayed on campus for a few years since the end of the newcomer trial. Later, he left with the old principal and his whereabouts are unknown. These people came up empty-handed, but they quickly investigated Chen Yu's social circle. From teachers to friends, they finally focused their attention on the Torch organization created by Yuan Yunying. The Torch was called an organization before, but it was actually a small studio. At any other time, such a small studio would not be in the eyes of these people. Even if they looked at it for a second, they would think it was a waste of time. However, now, they all applied to join respectfully, and stated that they could use their background power when necessary. After these words came out, Yuan Yunying couldn't help but take a breath. If this group of people really united, it would undoubtedly be the prototype of the next power center of Xia country. At the beginning, she made friends with Chen Yu, first because she admired him, and second because she thought Chen Yu had potential, so she invested in advance. This is something that every second generation or ambitious person will do. Unexpectedly, she caught a golden dragon. In the final stage of the rookie trial, Chen Yu had truly demonstrated his ability. Quickly convert potential into strength. Sorry, I know what you think. I also want you all to join, but I need to inform Chen Yu about this matter first. Yuan Yunying finally suppressed the restlessness in her heart and said to the group of people with an apologetic look. Hearing this answer, Everyone nodded in agreement. No one showed any impatience or strange expression. Because Yuan Yunying said it very clearly, they must inform Chen Yu first. They came here to build a good relationship with Chen Yu, so naturally they would not cause any trouble. Now Chen Yu will not continue his campus life. Then the Torch organization is the closest connection they can find with Chen Yu. Grasping this connection, they will still have the opportunity to deal with Chen Yu. Those who can appear here know what is the factor that determines status in the new era. Everyone said that they would go back and wait for news, and then left the studio. Until this group of people left, Yuan Yunying, Mi, Xiaoyun, Akei and other group leaders breathed a sigh of relief. Mimi patted her proud chest and said with an exaggerated expression, "I didn't expect Chen Yu to grow to this point." After the newcomer trial, Chaola and Li Yiping were said to have internal conflicts and transferred to other schools one after another. The twin stars of Nanjing University disappeared, but unexpectedly, a real dragon was exchanged. After hearing Mimi's words, everyone else agreed with her. Especially Yuan Yunying, who looked out the window with a faint gaze. Li Yiping and Chaola seemed to have had an internal conflict during the newcomer trial, and the inside story was unknown to outsiders. But later, the trial results came out, and Chen Yu ranked first, crushing all the newcomers. Li Yiping directly contacted other schools and transferred away. Chaola even gave up his student status because of the beautiful national strength of the university. The twin stars of Nanjing University, which were highly expected, were declared disbanded within a month of their establishment. Vice President Huang's grand blueprint was directly empty, and now he is completely autistic. Instead, the old principal who showed his identity in the Aurora camp has now become the flagpole of Nanjing University. But all this is not as good as Chen Yu's publicity of being the best. Nanjing University has crushed a number of Xiaoguo universities and become the most popular top university. I don't know how many senior high school students on the internet are discussing the path and hope of applying for Nanjing University. Chen Yu is alone, otherwise the rewards such as the honorary family will be delivered directly to his door. All these changes happened in just over a month. Yuan Yunying and others who are familiar with Chen Yu all have a sense of unreality. In addition to students applying to join this time, some faculty members also contacted Torch. The most influential one among them is a senior tutor named Li who wants to become the instructor of the Torch organization. The other party even contacted Yuan Yunying as soon as possible, with a very humble attitude. But Yuan Yunying asked her family to investigate this teacher Li afterwards, and found out that the other party was the niece of Elder Li. Yuan Yunying's father was alarmed by this incident and came to Nanjing University in person to have a long secret talk with Yuan Yunying. Afterwards, Yuan Group announced that it would fully support Yuan Yunying's development. Yuan Yunying became the second in command of the group, with the same power as her father. Thinking of the conversation with her father that night, Yuan Yunying's cheeks could not help but blush. Xiaoying, keep in touch with Chen Yu at all costs. It would be best if she could be his wife. If she can't be his wife, then she can also be considered as a lover. Where can I find such a father? Yuan Yunying covered her forehead with her hand to hide her expression. Picked up the phone, dialed Chen Yu's number, and found that she still couldn't get in touch. Obviously, Chen Yu is now in a secret realm or a new world. Now the publicity about the Dragon and Phoenix 10 is getting more and more intense. As long as Chen Yu doesn't show up, there will be no less trouble about him. But Xia Guo obviously doesn't care, and even seems to be happy to see such a situation. Maybe, the next time I see Chen Yu, he will be a big shot. Quote. Yuan Yunying sighed, and Mimi and the others nodded in agreement. 1 month later, West Mountain Ghost Cave. The 5th floor. Chen Yu stood in the gray world. As far as the eye can see, it is a huge arena. It is unknown what material the arena is made of, and there is no gap in the whole body. The overall shape is round, with a diameter of about 5 kilometers. Except for this arena, there are no wandering monsters in the whole world. Completely different from the environment of the first 4 floors. After Chen Yu and the old principal entered, the surroundings of the arena began to shake violently. One after another, high platforms rose from the ground, forming a stepped chair-like arrangement. Souls emerged on the seats, shouting excitedly and crazily. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. When the changes around stabilized, there were already 100,000 monsters. This is a number that is extremely terrifying. The screams of 100,000 monsters were like a tsunami, which made Chen Hu's ears tingle. And the old principal behind him looked at the ring with a complicated look. The rules of the 5th floor of the ghost cave are completely different from the previous ones. There is only one way to pass this level, that is to fight in the ring. One person at a time in the ring, and you can see the guarding boss after passing 3 monsters. Hearing the explanation of the old principal, Chen Yu was quite surprised. Because the rules of the 5th floor cannot be said to be very simple. But why can't 323 Xiaoguo beat it? It's okay to beat it before, but now there is a king, can't beat it. Chen Yu looked at the old principal in confusion and asked. This kind of ring rules only require the people sent to be strong enough, there is no reason to fail. This is only the 5th floor, and the East Cave is 1K 9th floor. Among the 4 kings, Li Yu came to try after sublimation. But he finally fell to the guarding boss, Asura King, and lost a chance to revive. The old principal seemed a little bit sad when he spoke. Obviously, he had also come to witness Li Yu's breakthrough. After all, that was the strongest combat force in Sha State in name, and Sha State had great hopes for it. The old principal told Chen Yu in detail about the process of Li Yu's breakthrough. The 3 guarding monsters in the 3 levels of the arena are the Ghost King, the Fire Bone King, and the 100 Suns Ghost Mother. The Ghost King has no entity, and ordinary physical attacks cannot take effect. The Fire Bone King has only bones left in his body, and he has strange fire, and his fighting style is extremely violent. The 100 Suns Ghost Mother can summon countless ghosts to fight, and can be extremely many. Every time you win a ring, you can get an hour of rest time. You can quit during this period, but if you win all 3 levels, you will enter the death match. The arena is affected by special forces. The stronger the challenger, the stronger the Asura King. Quote, functional props cannot be used, such as death substitutes or blood and mana recovery props. The old principal showed Chen Yu the information of the 3 defending monsters. The 3 monsters are all level 80, with outstanding individual attributes and a large number of skills. Chen Yu's eyes twitched. He came here because the first 4 levels had been taken down. He is now just one step away, which is to completely integrate everything with himself. What other people in Sha country did was to fight continuously in the first 4 levels. By fighting with the monsters in the Ghost Cave in such a special environment, progress was made. But after Li Yu challenged the 3 defending monsters in the 5th level, he said that he would benefit more here. Although there would be no reward if he did not pass the level. But after killing the defending monsters, he could get intuitive feedback on the fusion of skills. This fusion is different from his previous perception. Instead, there is a great power that directly solidifies it in the body. After Li Yu sublimated, he gained several new skills and mysteries. In that battle, he directly integrated the mysteries into himself. After the result was announced, many powerful people in Sha country were shocked. But because King Asura was too terrifying, others were still a little hesitant. King Asura will automatically adjust himself according to the strength of the challenger. In general, it is to maintain a level that is twice as strong as you. How to fight with twice the strength of the Heavenly King level? This is equivalent to certain death. Is it worth consuming a resurrection opportunity in exchange for the ability of Mysteries Fusion? Chen Yu sat cross-legged on the ground, also immersed in thinking. The 5th level, as long as you don't step into the ring, it will not cause changes. Chen Yu's current strength is all due to his talent. Soul sacrifice allows him to absorb the attributes of the beast soul form, thereby strengthening himself. The next time he transforms, the strength of the beast soul will be greatly enhanced. This is a positive cycle, a process of becoming stronger and stronger. In more than a month, he has attributes comparable to the King of Heaven. But correspondingly, he has no urgent need to integrate his own skills. Skills such as the secret will only appear after sublimation. Yang Yu has already introduced it to him. The so-called secret is actually a general statement that the minimum level of 10 can be unified. In fact, it is to fill one branch in the skill tree. The skill tree of each profession is very large and complicated. generally divided into defense, attack, spell, auxiliary, functional, etc. In addition, according to the characteristics of each profession, there are corresponding detailed divisions. For example, Chen Yu's Druid, the first few skills are a single list, natural foundation. After he sublimates, this branch will obviously open new skills. He has never relied on other skills. All of them rely on the transformation of the beast soul to conquer the world. He uses whatever skills the beast soul has. For the rest, just attack A. According to this situation, the reward of the 5th level is dispensable to him. The old principal did not recommend Chen Yu to challenge the level now. He allowed Chen Yu to come to the 5th level just to let him feel it first. Although there are now 100,000 monsters in the audience of the 5th level, in fact, there were only 10,000 at the beginning. As a result, it swelled to 100,000 in a year. Sha Guo has always suspected that when the number of monsters on the 5th level reaches a certain level, something will happen in the Ghost Cave's secret realm. Everyone who knows the situation of the 5th level of Qishan Ghost Cave will have a sense of urgency in their hearts. You don't have the secret now, there is no need. I still want to try. Seeing Chen Yu's serious eyes, the old principal said. Who knew that Chen Yu jumped up from the ground just halfway through the words. His expression also became very excited, which surprised the old principal. My target is the 3 defending monsters, principal. Chen Yu pointed to the ring and explained it to the old principal briefly. As long as you don't pass 3 levels in a row and force out King Asura, you can quit at any time. This mechanism is very consistent with Chen Yu's idea. He now has 3 beast souls on him: Earth Giant Bear, World Tree, and Emperor Ape Beetle. The Earth Giant Bear has not been upgraded and cannot absorb attributes for the time being. The World Tree has exploded once, and it has the same problem. But the Emperor Ape Beetle is different. After merging with the Wind Ape, the Emperor Ape Beetle mutated and evolved once, and it is a new individual. Chen Yu's soul sacrifice can play a role on the Emperor Ape Beetle. If the strongest Emperor Ape Beetle is exploded once, Chen Yu will usher in a terrifying change. The beetle itself has a 200% enhancement of physique and strength. After merging with the Wind Ape, the beast soul also has a 200% agility enhancement. Absorb 3 attributes at a time, plus the increase of basic attributes. Chen Yu even has the confidence to fight the 4 heavenly kings with real swords and guns. And the winning rate is not low. Anyway, now he has the support of the country, it is very easy to recover his beast soul after it explodes. He doesn't need to collect any materials himself, just ask the country to transfer them. When the time comes, throw them all into the belt to speed up the recovery of the beast soul. Thinking of this, Chen Yu simply changes to the Emperor Ape Beetle form. The natural belt emerges with brilliance, and the attributes of the Emperor Ape Beetle increase by another 30%. Emperor Ape Beetle form. Strength: 776,412. Agility: 85,041. Constitution: 354,900. Spirit: 375,757. Will: 88,244. A strange smile appeared on the insect's face, and the beast spirit of the Emperor Ape Beetle felt cold for no reason. But as a juvenile, it was ignorant and only thought that it was afraid of the difficulties. The beast spirit of the Emperor Ape Beetle shouted in Chen Yu's mind, and actually encouraged himself. Feeling the emotions of the Emperor Ape Beetle, Chen Yu laughed for a moment. Spreading the insect wings on his back, Chen Yu looked at the old principal. Don't worry, principal, I will retreat if the situation is not right. With the wings spread, Chen Yu directly used the range of the ring. The monsters who had been waiting for a long time in the audience seats of the ring shouted more violently. The sound surrounding Chen Yu was so shocking that he couldn't bear it, and his body stiffened for a while. This made his expression change a little. Fighting in such an environment is also a test for challengers. He can feel that if the will attribute is too low, there will even be a situation of actual experience suppression. Fortunately, although his will attribute is the lowest, it is still more than 60,000, which is enough to offset the impact. When Chen Yu stepped on the ring, an invisible wave extended from his feet. At the edge of the ring, the earth shook, and a high mountain rose up with a rumble. This mountain is so wide that you can't see the end at a glance. The peak in the middle rises all the way to a height of nearly 1,000 meters. Chen Yu raised his head almost vertically, and could barely see the situation at the top of the mountain. There was black fog on the mountain, and a huge figure was sitting in it. Without thinking too much, Chen Yu knew that it was the final boss of the 5th floor, King Asura. In front of King Asura, there were 3 peaks of several hundred meters high, and there were also figures on them. The Ghost King was like a shadow, invisible and intangible. The Fire Bone King was a huge skeleton, with red lines flowing in the white bones, shining. There were also sparks floating around the body, which looked extraordinary. The size of the 100 Suns Ghost Mother is the largest, even bigger than the mountain. It looks like a meat mountain, but its head is a kind woman's face, and it laughs sinisterly. Chen Yu can only sigh, it is indeed a ghost cave. Each boss gives people a very uncomfortable feeling. If it is placed in the real world, it can serve as the prototype of a horror movie. You have entered the Ghost Cave arena. Please choose the Ghost King you want to challenge. A prompt appeared in Chen Yu's mind, followed by the name of the Lord Dongzhu. Chen Yu had considered this issue before, and he excluded the name of the Ghost King first. The ability of the Emperor Ape Beetle is somewhat restrained against the Ghost King, which is a thankless task. Even if he was beaten, he estimated that it would be difficult to deal with the Ghost King. Fire Bone King. Chen Yu shouted loudly and chose the Bone Destroyer King. His face showed that he was a tough guy. It was just right for the Emperor Ape Beetle to fight. As for the 100 Suns Ghost Mother, it was only Chen Yu's second choice. Hearing Chen Yu's choice, the Fire Bone King sitting on the mountain peak twitched his jaw. It looked as if he was laughing. The huge body stood up and was teleported to the ring the next moment. Fire Bone King, LV80. Attributes: Strength, 250,000. Agility, 150,000. Constitution, 260,000. Spirit, 120,000. Will, 80,000. Skills: Ghost Fire Explosion, Fire Explosion. The Ghost King transformed from the skeleton has very hard bones, comparable to a divine weapon, with a large number of skills and a violent fighting style. The weakness lies in its soul fire. If there are skills that affect the soul, they will have special effects on the Fire Bone King. The information of the Fire Bone King appeared in Chen Yu's eyes. In front of you. Because of the records of Sha country, the information is very clear. Especially about the skills of Fire Bone King, there are more than 40 skills. The last one was recorded by Li. Chen Yu himself actually has a skill that affects the soul. Dragon Roar. This skill, which was rewarded in the novice trial, happens to belong to the soul attack category. Dragon Roar is not limited to any race. As long as you can make a sound, you can learn and master it. Its essence is to achieve the same effect by learning and imitating the dragon race. The Fire Bone King is incomparable to the boss in the novice trial, the Dragon Fledgling. It is the strongest boss that Chen Yu has encountered so far. All attributes are outstanding, especially physique, strength, and agility. But since there is a weakness that is affected by the soul, Chen Yu has to grasp it well. His purpose is of course to make the Emperor Ape Beetle explode, but he also wants to experience and learn from the battle. Otherwise, it is the same to just stand and get beaten. The Bone King is a body of bones and has no vocal cords, so he can't speak. But for monsters of this level, soul communication is also a basic ability. However, after the Bone King came on the field, he stared at Chen Yu with a pair of eyes burning with ghost fire. He had no interest in communicating at all. Oh, you are quite cool. Chen Yu, who was in the form of Emperor Ape Beetle, teased, very relaxed. With the talent of soul sacrifice, he was equivalent to having 2 lives, and he was not afraid at all. He exerted force on his feet, and the insect wings behind him shook, and the Emperor Ape Beetle rushed out. After the experience of the 4th level of the Ghost Cave, Chen Bao had perfectly mastered the ability of the Emperor Ape. With the assistance of the Beast Spirit, his strength was much stronger than the panel attributes. In just a moment, Chen Yu rushed to the side of the Fire Bone King. But the Fire Bone King also reacted very quickly, and countless bone spurs exploded on himself. Bone Spurs, one of the signature skills of the Fire Bone King. After the already tall Fire Bone King was covered with bone spurs, his body expanded again. The swinging arms each extended a bone knife, which caused countless sparks and rolled up the knife wind. Skill release. Attack. Skill release. Attack. The Fire Bone King used a series of killing moves, one after another, directly suppressing Chen Yu. The golden armor of the Emperor Ape Beetle continued to burst into flames, and was chopped into scars everywhere. The vitality dropped rapidly. In just a moment, Chen Yu truly felt the power of the Fire Bone King. It is worthy of being a boss that can stump the Sha Kingdom. The Fire Bone King is so powerful, how strong should the Asura King who guards the gate boss be? Chen Yu couldn't help but look up at the mountain. On the highest mountain, the Asura King shrouded in black fog was as still as a mountain, and the field was calm. It seemed that Chen Yu's strength was not enough for it to show any emotions. On the contrary, the monsters watching the battle around him shouted even more crazily. Chen Yu himself couldn't count how many times he was hit by the Fire Bone King, and was pushed back all the way. Fortunately, his physique was good enough, so he was not killed instantly by the Fire Bone King. The Emperor Ape Beetle inherited the skills of the Emperor Beetle. Hard armor can increase his defense by an additional 20%, but it is obviously useless at the moment. So Chen Yu decisively activated another skill. Bang! The Emperor Ape Beetle crossed its forearms and grabbed the two bone knives of the Fire Bone King unexpectedly. The Asura King, the Ghost King, and the 100 Sons Ghost Mother, who were sitting on the mountain, moved their bodies slightly. The old principal who was watching the battle from a distance also stood up and looked at Chen Yu with a serious look. At that moment just now, Chen Yu burst out with pressure, which briefly affected the attack frequency of the Fire Bone King. Then, with the perception of the martial body to the attack, he caught the pause flaw in an instant and grabbed the bone knife. This time, it was the result of Chen Yu's previous 4 levels of experience. Grabbing the bone knife and stopping the Fire Bone King, Chen Yu's eyes lit up. The carapace on his body sizzled and unfolded, and there was a faint light flickering inside. Explode. Exploding armor. Explode the carapace to attack the enemy, causing 500% strength damage and stun, and increase agility and endurance by 100%. The golden carapace bombarded the Fire Bone King, causing all of the Fire Bone King's bone spurs to burst and fly away. 500% strength, that is 3.88 million. Unfortunately, because the shell exploded in all directions, it was destined to be unable to pour all the power into one place. The body of the Fire Bone King suddenly changed, and the gaps between the bones were all filled with bones, turning into a bone monument. But even so, the Fire Bone King was still beaten half of his bones and flew out. Chen Yu's attack also came with dizziness, and the Fire Bone King lost control of his body at this moment. On the other hand, Chen Yu gained a double increase in agility and strength, and his whole body exuded a fiery breath. There was also boiling hot air coming out of the hideous insect mouth under the compound eyes. The explosive armor form lasts for 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, either you blow up the Fire Bone King or you are blown up by the Fire Bone King. In this form, I should be able to fight with you. Quote. Chen Yu's voice was still floating in the air, but his figure had already rushed to the side of the Fire Bone King. The last time the Fire Bone King was able to turn defense into offense, and beat Chen Yu so hard that he couldn't fight back. This time, he was in a dizzy state, and his reaction was a full second slower. Chen Yu spread his forearms, and his muscles, like ropes, made a crackling sound. On the mountain peak, the black mist around the Asura King suddenly dissipated, revealing his huge true appearance. The whole body is dark blue, with 3 faces and 6 arms, and there are mysterious runes on his skin. The huge fangs protrude from his lips, and his wide-open eyes reveal an interested look. In the ring below, the monsters that had been shouting wildly were quiet for a while. Then bursts of Ola sounds broke out from the ring. Ola, Ola, Ola. Chen, who seized the opportunity, swung his fist wildly, bombarding the Fire Bone King. The bones that were regarded as hard as divine weapons kept breaking and flying. Half of his body was beaten and only the head was left. The ghost fire in his eye socket suddenly jumped up, and a huge amount of magic power burst out from inside. Fire Bone King skill, bone regeneration. Wang Le Jiao. I've been prepared for this trick of yours. When the Fire Bone King was beaten to the point where he could no longer maintain his shape, he would use bone regeneration to condense a body again. But Chen Yu, who had gained the experience of his predecessors, how could he let it be so easy? Roar. The dragon roar skill was activated. But not with his mouth. It was the fist wind formed by Chen Yu's fist that produced the effect of dragon roar. For a normal dragon roar, 1 point of willpower is equivalent to 100 attacks. Chen Yu used fist wind to simulate the dragon roar. 1 point of willpower can only exert 10 points of attack. But at this moment, the effect is even more outstanding. In the eye sockets of the Fire Bone King, the soul fire trembled wildly. The regenerated bone had not yet solidified, and it was smashed into powder by the fist with dragon roar. Chen Yu did not directly attack the head of the Fire Bone King with dragon roar. Instead, he changed his mind and attacked the regenerated bone, which directly achieved results that the old principal could not have imagined. Your weakness is the soul. Then your head must have a special ability to protect the soul. Quote. Attacking your head will definitely not be as effective as it is now. Chen Yu still had the time to explain to the Fire Bone King. At this moment, the Fire Bone King had been completely beaten to the point of losing his calendar. On the huge mountain, King Asura chuckled. Ha! Hearing this laugh, the Fire Bone King's soul was furious. You angered me, alien. Since the fight began, the Bone King finally spoke. The anger from the soul was clearly transmitted to Chen Yu. However, Chen Yu was not afraid. The coordination of martial body and martial intention allowed him to burst out at least 130% of the output in each attack. The four arms bombarded in turn, and the dragon larva was smashed to death in this way. The sparks emanating from the Fire Bone King's body became visibly brighter. But before it could release its skills, Chen Yu's insect mouth opened. Authentic dragon roar. Although the Fire Bone King's skull had protective capabilities, this skill was still affected and terminated. Chen Yu retracted his four arms, accumulated power, and exploded. He hit the head of the Fire Bone King. 4 fierce fists hit the head of the Fire Bone King. The Asura King on the peak sat up straight, his bloody mouth opened into a hideous smile. Even the 100 Suns Ghost Mother and the Ghost King on the other 2 peaks twisted their bodies. The kind face of the 100 Suns Ghost Mother was uncertain at this moment. The Ghost King's shadow-like body began to twist. Outside the ring, the huge audience was silent. The monsters that had been screaming madly fell into a dead silence. The old principal at the edge of the ring showed a shocked expression. After a short silence, a pillar of fire rose into the sky. The head of the Fire Bone King was completely shattered into powder. A little flame flew back to the peak, and the power of rules began to dissipate. The monsters watching the battle around screamed miserably, and were sucked into pure energy. Those energies flew to the peak like raindrops and merged with the little flame of the Fire Bone King. After a while, a brand new Fire Bone King reappeared on the mountain. But the Fire Bone King at this time was no longer as rebellious and indifferent as before. After resurrection, he stood up immediately, with sparks bursting all over his body. He was going to fight Chen Yu again. Chen Yu on the ring was indifferent, just standing there with his head down. When the Fire Bone King was about to jump off the mountain, a huge pressure came and suppressed him tightly. The source of the pressure was the Asura King. If you lose, you lose. King, I was just careless for a moment. Shut up and go to Prison Peak to receive your punishment. Dan. The Fire Bone King did not dare to resist the order of the Asura King. After hearing this, he just looked at Chen Yu with hatred, and then turned and left the mountain. Chen Yu did not pay much attention to the conversation on the mountain. At this time, he was just silently recalling the battle just now. From the first floor of West Mountain Ghost Cave to the 4th floor. The experience of Chen Yu during this period of time has made him grow in a way that ordinary people can hardly imagine. In fact, even he himself did not have a clear understanding of his current combat power. Until the battle with the Fire Bone King. The attribute level of the Fire Bone King is comparable to that of a professional who has been sublimated. If it is a Heavenly King level combat power, the Fire Bone King can also fight 50 to 50. If it is Chen Yu who has not come to West Mountain Ghost Cave, you definitely can't be defeated. Even though he has a strength attribute far beyond the Fire Bone King, fighting is not a game of one punch after another. The Wind Ape at the time was limited by its own strength, but it was able to beat him beyond its attributes. The Fire Bone King will only be 823 stronger than the demonized Wind Ape, and Chen Yu is likely to be kite-fighted to death. Just as he thought before, if he can't hit anyone, he is just a super soldier. A super sandbag. But this time, the rhythm of the battle was in his hands from the beginning. Except for the initial counterattack, the Fire Bone King was passive throughout the rest of the battle. Whether it is attack skills or the release and adjustment of skills, Chen Yu has achieved miraculous results. Skills are not about releasing 100%. Sometimes, in order to gain the advantage of time, it is the best choice to appropriately weaken the power of skills. The experience of the Ghost Cave allowed Chen Ning to perfectly integrate this skill into himself. Even the old principal didn't expect him to learn to this extent. At this time, he had to re-evaluate Chen Yu's ability in his heart. Compared with Chen Yu's panel strength, the strength of this learning ability deserves his attention. Because it means that Chen Yu's growth bottleneck will hardly appear. The old principal looked at Chen Yu's quiet background, as if he saw a king rising in the distance. No, it should be a powerful existence above the king. Young man, you have mastered the skills of fighting. The 100 Suns Ghost Mother will not be your opponent, maybe the Ghost King can restrain you. How about it, do you want to continue the challenge? I'm looking forward to you standing on the ring with me. From the top of the mountain, the heavy voice of King Asura came from afar. The monsters were as quiet as cicadas, and none of them dared to speak. These monsters were born according to the rules of this secret realm, but they were not free. On the 5th floor, all monsters must obey the orders of the gatekeeper boss King Asura. King Asura built a fighting ring, and they were all tied up here. Every day, if there are no professionals, the monsters will fight crazily in the ring. They grow in battle and become stronger in battle. Until they have the strength comparable to the commanders such as the Fire Bone King, they will issue a challenge. Win, replace, loss, disappear, and if there are professionals challenging, they will be summoned to the audience to watch the battle. The professionals who died in the battle will release a large amount of blood energy under the effect of the ring array for them to absorb. Professionals can get benefits here, and correspondingly, monsters can also. The key is who wins and who loses. If the 3 commanders die in battle and resurrect, they will also absorb them as blood bags. During the period when the secret realm was opened, the number of professionals who came to challenge was the largest. Later, it decreased. Among these AJDE challengers, there are very few who can make King Asura speak. This means that King Asura recognizes Chen Yu's strength. And the professionals who can be recognized by King Asura will take their souls after being killed. Those souls will turn into ghosts and reappear on the 5th floor and become one of them. With the strength shown by Chen Yu, it is no problem to replace the position of one of the 3 commanders. Hearing King Asura's words, the old principal's expression changed. Chen Yu even raised his head and looked at the top of the peak. There, King Asura's figure seemed to be higher than the sky. A pair of red eyes stared at him with a piercing spirit. But Chen Yu just shook his head. I didn't expect that the boss of the mythical secret realm seemed to have independent thoughts. But I'm not going to challenge it again. The Phantom Ghost King can certainly restrain me, but he can't blow me up. He couldn't defeat the Asura King. This was Chen Yu's determined thought after the battle with the Fire Bone King. Even if he blew up the beast soul of the Emperor Ape Beetle, the result would be the same. There were unknown factors on the Asura King that he couldn't see through. He couldn't even beat the Heavenly King Li Yu, so he felt that he didn't need to rush too much. The 5th floor of West Mountain Ghost Cave gave him a very strange feeling. He felt that Sha Guo's research on West Mountain Ghost Cave was not thorough, and there were many mysteries. This secret realm must not have been generated out of thin air. Perhaps it was a new life after the existing small world merged with the mythical ruins of Blue Star. Originally, I expected the 3 commanders to be able to blow up the Emperor Ape Beetle, but now it seems unrealistic. The fighting style of the 100 Suns Ghost Mother and the Phantom Ghost King could not kill Chen Yu at all. With a strong physique, just recovering blood is enough to give them a headache. And his time is very precious. There are still elves waiting for him at the Aurora camp in South City. The training here has come to an end for the time being. Without responding to King Asura, Chen Yu turned and left the ring. Seeing Chen Yu leave, the old principal was relieved. The two rested for 10 minutes, and immediately left the 5th floor and teleported directly back to the real world. Watching Chen Yu turn into a stream of light and disappear on the 5th floor, King Asura's eyes were dim. That sight seemed to penetrate the boundaries of time and space and see the real world. Another world, not far away. Accumulate some more strength, and you can go out. King Asura's mountain-like majestic body sat back on the peak. With a wave of his hand, the monsters in the audience seats of the ring were teleported to the ring. The next moment, the red season spread from the ring. A large number of monsters fell into madness and killed each other. The whole picture was like a stage play, specially performed for the Asura king on the peak to watch. The real world, Chishan, the stone archway. Chen Yu and the old principal appeared under the stone archway, and immediately alarmed the army stationed here. The first thing he saw was the soldiers who were all armed and majestic. He could clearly sense that these people had the aura of professionals. But Chen Yu then saw Shu He coming towards him. The woman with long hair hanging down to her waist had curiosity and expectation on her face, and she was generous. "Hello, Chen Yu, I'm Shu He. The 3rd place in the Dragon and Phoenix newcomer, except for the death of the elder. I came here to ask you to carry out the mission with me." Shu He's words made Chen Yu stunned, and the old principal next to him also showed a puzzled expression. They had been in the West Mountain Ghost Cave for a while, and they didn't know what the Dragon and Phoenix plan was. But they knew about Elder Shu. The old principal was personally selected by the Elders' Council. As for Chen Yu, he watched a lot of TV programs at the time, so he was not unfamiliar with Elder Shu, the first elder. But how old is Elder Shu this year, and he still has such a young daughter? Old age blooms. Seeing Chen Yu's confusion, Shu He explained the situation to him simply and clearly. The Dragon and Phoenix growth plan, called Dragon and Phoenix Rookie in the West. The training mission of the New World Organization. Shu He's words were clear and concise, which made Chen Yu feel very comfortable. After just a brief contact, he knew that the woman in front of him was not ordinary. Even if it was not in the era of professionals, even if there was no influence of identity and background, Shu He would not be bad. Chen Sheng didn't care about the Dragon and Phoenix plan. Anyway, he is now firmly in the 1st place, and no one can take this position away. But he was very interested in Shu He's New World Organization. It turns out that the organization Shu He joined is an independent organization belonging to the New World. It does not belong to any camp and does not work for any force. In other words, this organization is a force in itself. Its name is Tianxing. There are no more than 100 people in the organization, and each of them joined after investigation and testing. The members of the organization are not limited to the human race, but also members of other races. The purpose of Tianxing is to maintain order under the starry sky. This order does not refer to any political power or national order. It is to maintain the order of the operation of the world itself. All external factors that affect the operation of the world are within the scope of this organization. When Shu He entered the New World, he joined Tianxing under the recommendation of one of the members. It sounds like a cannon fodder organization. Generally in novels or film and television animations, the end of such organizations is definitely miserable. Chen Yu said to Shu Tian half-jokingly. But in his heart, he really thought so. No matter how you look at it, the purpose of Tianxing organization is a bit aloof. It's like a group of idealists gathered together to do something. And the usual fate of idealists is either destruction or madness. I joined Tianxing just to pave the way for Xiaoguo. Shu He did not refute Chen Yu's evaluation, and replied with a smile. She described to Chen Yu again the reputation of professionals in the real world and the new world. Because of the ability to resurrect, professionals there can be said to be bold and reckless. Frequently doing things that disrupt order, or even destroy order. Tianxing had long been eyeing this group of professionals from another world. Part of the reason for recruiting Shu He was that they wanted to use Shu He to manage this group of people. Shu He joined because he wanted to find a partner for Xiaoguo. The various countries on Blue Star are now looking for new foundations in the new world. For example, the United States is said to have several bases there and has made a lot of money. But Xiaoguo has not made any progress so far. So when Chen Yu got in touch with the Elf Royal Court, Xiaoguo took it so seriously. So what is your test mission? The mission is to light up the 3 lighthouses in the Black Wilderness. Only yourself or a 3-person team, and the strength level must not exceed 1 turn of sublimation. A 3-person team is the standard team size in the New World. If Shuhei completes the mission and is officially recognized by the Tianxing organization, he will also be assigned to the team. When the Tianxing organization conducts external operations, 3 people usually go together. The Black Wilderness is a Jedi in the New World. After the invasion of the Abyss, the plane was completely eroded and corrupted. Later, a strong man organized manpower and material resources to build 99 lighthouses in the wilderness to form a large formation. However, due to the harsh environment, the lighthouses would go out from time to time. The power of the large formation would weaken as the number of lighthouses went out. Originally, the 99 lighthouses were maintained by major forces. However, due to the long years, some of the original forces were destroyed and some were replaced. Some lighthouses fell into the state of being unattended. The Tianxing organization included all these lighthouses in its scope of responsibility and monitored them year after year. Every 3 lighthouses are a node. Before the node is completely formed, the monsters in the Black Wilderness will attack the lighthouses crazily and extinguish the flames. Shuhei tried several times, but at most he could only light 2. It is necessary to have the help of a partner to make the 3 lighthouses light up at the same time and restore the node function. At this point, Shuhei looked at Chen Yu with shining eyes. Chen Yu, you are the first among dragons and phoenixes, are you willing to help me? Shuhei is not the kind of woman who is stunning at first sight. But after looking at her for a long time, she looks more and more pleasing to the eye. Especially the cool feeling on her body, which makes people feel good about her involuntarily. Same as Yuan Yunying, but fundamentally different. If Yuan Yunying is like the life committee member in the class when we were in school, then Shuhei is the class monitor. In the face of Shuhei's request, the old principal did not speak. This is Chen Yu's business, no matter the old principal or the elders, there is no need to interfere. Besides, if Chen Yu helps Shuhei, in his opinion, the task will be completed by 70%. In the trial, he remembered clearly the scene of Chen Yu transforming into an explosive bear and killing all around. At worst, the transformation of the World Tree has an outrageous range of control. Especially now that Chen Yu has experienced the Ghost Cave training. It took less than 10 minutes to blow up the Fire Bone King, even Li Yu couldn't do this. This is a monster that has not sublimated, but has sublimated combat power. If Chen Yu contacts the Elf Royal Court smoothly, Shuhei successfully completes the task and leads Tianxing to contact Xiaoguo. That's really a good thing. Chen Yu himself was thinking about how this matter would help him. He didn't care much if he spent time helping Shuhei just to get a favor from Shuhei. With his current strength and status, anyone's favor was nothing to him. The most important thing for him at the moment was to improve his own strength. He followed the old principal to the mythical secret place like West Mountain Ghost Cave for this purpose. He found that he could broaden his career path through this experience. Places like West Mountain Ghost Cave can train his skills. So are there other places that can train other abilities. What's more, there is a group of elves waiting for him in the New World over in the South City camp. Seeing Chen Yu thinking, Shuhei immediately took out a parchment scroll from the space package. Shuhei unfolded the parchment scroll in front of Chen Yu. The golden lines formed a mysterious pattern. The pattern looked like a building when he looked closely. Chen Yu could clearly sense the energy fluctuations coming from the parchment scroll. Obviously, this parchment scroll was not an ordinary object. It was a prop that Shuhei got from the New World. He didn't hesitate to use the identification technique to take a look. Sacred Relic Scroll. Special prop. One time, holding the Holy Relic Scroll, you can enter the Holy Battlefield and search for opportunities in the relics. After seeing the item information, Chen Yu noticed that this parchment scroll was incomplete. It was like a huge piece of parchment that was torn into countless pieces, and this one was broken all around. I got this by chance when I was trying to repair the lighthouse. The Holy Battlefield was one of the main battlefields of the war between the New World and the Abyss in the past. There are a lot of terrible forces that are still entangled there, and ordinary people can't enter. Only by relying on the Holy Relic Scroll can you enter it. Shu He explained the Holy Relic Scroll and the Holy Battlefield to Chen Yu. As a member of the Tianxing organization, she has been able to learn enough information. A lot of information about the New World in Xiaoguo was obtained through her. As for where the Holy Battlefield is, Shu He also knows it very well and said that he can take Chen Yu there. And this Holy Relic Scroll is a special gift for Chen Shui. Whether Chen Yu helps her or not, she will give it to Chen Yu. Hearing what Shu He said, Chen Yu raised his eyebrows. Since people have done this, he has nothing to hesitate about. Chen Yu took the parchment scroll directly and looked at the dashing woman in front of him with a warm look. Go and prepare a copy of the time required for the mission, the candidates, and the specific strategy for me. I will return to South City first, contact the elves there and come back. Hearing Chen Yu's answer, Shu He smiled brightly and stretched out his hand. The two shook hands generously and left. Shu He did not say that he wanted to test Chen Yu's strength as before. A person who can break through the 4th floor of Qishan East Cave more than a month after awakening. It will only be stronger than Shu He imagined. What she should consider is to not drag Chen Yu down, not other things. After Shu He left, the people of the Qishan Corps warmly received the old principal and Chen Yu. The old principal stayed in the Qishan Ghost Cave for a long time, and there were many people in the Corps who considered themselves his apprentices. And Chen Yu, through his performance in this experience, won the unanimous recognition of the Corps. A discerning person can see that Chen Yu has a bright future. Taking advantage of the old principal's presence, it became the idea of the leaders of the Corps to build a good relationship with Chen Yu as much as possible. However, the two did not stay in Qishan for long. After a short meal, they set off. Because the real world is isolated from the new world, the abilities of professionals are suppressed. The old principal can fly in the new world, but here he just sits on a private plane. In one night, the two returned to Nanjing University. Returning to campus again, Chen Yu actually felt as if it was a different day. During this period, in addition to the old principal, he was accompanied by various ghosts in the ghost cave. In other words, Chen Yu's strong will attribute offset this change in mentality. Many professionals gradually cannot accept the real world after long-term exploration of the new world or secret realm. They almost never return, but live completely in the new world. There are a certain number of such people on Blue Star, and they are called detached people by various countries. Chen Yu did not pay attention to these. After returning to campus, he went straight to Yuan Yuning's studio. Thanks to Chen Yu's relationship, Yuan Yuning's studio has now moved to a new address. That is the newly built Advanced Research Institute of Nanjing University. Those who can work in research here are all excellent talents with senior professional titles. Without certain technical capabilities, you cannot enter even if you are rich. The person who coordinated this matter at the beginning was Teacher Li, who is now the counselor of the Torch organization and the niece of Elder Li. Wearing a baseball cap and a mask, Chen Yu came to the studio in a low-key manner through the exclusive elevator. After opening the door, he saw Yuan Yuning and others with admiration on their faces. Yuan Yuning, Mimi, Xiaoyun, and Akei were the first people to contact Chen Yu. Although everyone knew that Chen Yu was very strong, they did not expect Chen Yu to be so strong. The first among the 10 dragons and phoenixes. They have already understood the power brought by this title very thoroughly during this period. Seeing Chen Yu again, it is inevitable to be a little restrained. Seeing them like this, Chen Yu also knew in his heart that everyone could not be as happy as before. With the improvement of his strength and the growth of his status, this is actually an inevitable situation. However, the Torch organization is the first organization he joined after all. At the beginning, the friends also worked hard and cooperated well. That's why he came here as soon as he came back. This investment of mine should be regarded as the most successful investment in my life. Haha, you are right. Yuan Yuning spoke first and said to Chen Yu with a smile. Chen Yu also responded with a smile. The interaction between the two made the atmosphere relaxed. Several people came to the office area and sat down casually on the sofa. Yuan Yuning told Chen Yu in detail about the current situation of the Torch organization. Although it is still an organization in school, it is already a first-class sequence in terms of funds and network. The Yuan group behind Yuan Yunying and the support of the country have made the Torch organization one of the most famous organizations in Xia country. The top professional organizations and institutions in Xia country have established contacts with the Torch organization one after another. Many of them are people who experienced the trial invasion incident in the periphery. These people have a very keen sense of opportunity and took action as soon as they came back. It's not that no one wants to take advantage of the opportunity to suppress Yuan Yunying and seize control of the Torch before Chen Yu returns. But they were all dealt with by the second generation from Beijing. Yuan Yunying took out a thick stack of documents. It was the second generation who would apply. But Chen Yu didn't even look at it, just waved his hand. I won't spend much time in the Torch in the future. Let's stick to the previous cooperation model, and you will be responsible for daily management. All the materials I get in the New World or the Secret Realm will be processed by the Torch. Chen Yu had already thought about the subsequent planning and development. He must not have the energy to deal with these miscellaneous items, and the existence of the Torch organization is the best helper. Yuan Yunying has already won his recognition and her ability is also outstanding. In the Trial Secret Realm, Yuan Yunying controlled a camp, which is proof. With her, Chen Yu can save unnecessary energy consumption. Anyway, he has a small world with him, and the storage space is almost unlimited, so he will never waste time on dungeons. And his strength is improving too fast, resulting in many gains that will not be used on himself at all. It doesn't matter who handles these things, the Torch organization at least has this relationship with him. At the same time, because of his current status, although there are many resources that can be obtained by applying to the country, but the harvests of professionals are not all handed over to the country voluntarily. The country will not force civilian professionals to hand over their harvests, which will lead to uncontrollable unrest. Therefore, there are many resources that the country does not actually have, and are in the hands of the people. If he asks for it, the effect will be different from that of the Torch organization. The Torch organization can be packaged with a layer of business or commercial skin, which will not attract other people's attention and speculation. Jondon and Yuan Yunying determined the future cooperation method. Yuan Yunying also approved Chen Yu's decision, and the few of them had a simple meal in the office. When the second generation came to Torch in the afternoon, Chen Yu had left again. The second generation was in a bad mood after a series of failures. Fortunately, Yuan Yunying explained to them that Chen Yu did not object to their joining Torch, and everyone settled down. As for how everyone would cooperate in the future, Yuan Yunying and the second generation discussed it carefully. As for Chen Yu, he had already arrived at the South City camp. Without alarming others, he directly entered the transmission area with his super high identity authority. With the flash of light, he returned to the Trial Forest again. The Trial Forest is actually the ancestral land of the Wind Elves. After a great battle, half of the forest had been destroyed, and it looked quite hideous. But those areas that were well preserved had restored their original tranquility. After Chen Yu appeared, not long after, the elf Amaya came to Chen Yu. She bowed respectfully to Chen Yu and said, "My lord." Chen Yu, who came to the New World, wore the crown of the Wind Elves, a spiritual tree wristband on his wrist, and a natural belt around his waist. It was almost the same configuration as the king of the Wind Elves back then. In addition, he transformed into the World Tree, which was the sacred tree of the Elf Royal Court. Amaya, a descendant of the Wind Elves, was respectful to Chen Yu almost like worship. Druids are a heritage profession from the elves, and later spread to other tribes. In the original regulations of the Elf Royal Court, those who could become druids automatically had the identity of the elves. In other words, druids were equivalent to elves. Chen Yu helped Amaya up, and Amaya was so excited that she trembled all over. After a while, an owl bear flapped its wings and landed in front of Chen Yu. After landing, the owl bear transformed into the elf druid, Anloyo. "You are finally back, young man. I can feel that you have become stronger again." And Luiyu's eyes towards Chen Yu are much more complicated than Amaya's. When he was in the imperial court, he once angrily criticized Chen Yu's druid path on the spot, saying that it was a completely evil path. But later the queen explained that it might be because Chen Yu had not experienced the complete druid doctrine. The professional abilities of aliens are all automatically awakened. It is completely different from the people in their world. So Enloyue now has a sense of mission. He wants to bring Chen Yu back to the right path of druids. The chief of the Fire Elves and the chief of the Gold Elves who came with him had already gone back when the super limit transmission was closed. As the leaders of the same lineage, they are not very concerned about Chen Yu. At most, they are concerned about why Chen Yu can become a world tree. But in this regard, Enloyue is more authoritative than them. With Enloyue, they don't need to waste time in the ancestral land of the Wind Elves. Chen Yu also exchanged greetings with Enloyue. One person and two elves walked to the original ruins altar. Although the altar has been repaired, it has not been charged yet, so it is just for show. But the environment here is the best, the most suitable for chatting, and the most suitable for training. Sir Enloyue, I came here to ask you some questions about the druid profession. Chen Yu got straight to the point and stated his purpose directly. It has only been more than a year since Red Moon. Nowadays, the three main professions are the most understood in the real world. Because the three main professions can find the most information and references in the new world. And for a slightly niche or unpopular profession like druid, everyone's understanding is not good. Especially the druids, known as the sons of nature, rarely appear in the outside world. If Chen Yu wants to study his profession thoroughly and improve the upper limit of his profession, the Anluiyu in front of him is the best candidate. The queen who had never met him must have considered this aspect when she sent Anluiyu here. As expected, after Chen Yu spoke, Anluiyu's face showed uncontrollable excitement and joy. Sir Chen Yu, you are definitely right to find me. I am the chief druid of the imperial court. If you talk about the profession of druids, no one knows better than me. Not even the queen can do it. Anluiyu straightened his chest with a proud face. Before, he called Chen Yu a young man, but now when he heard that Chen Yu wanted to learn, he called him sir. When this old man transformed into a hero, he was huge and had extraordinary momentum. His original body was just a skinny old man with a white beard hanging down to his chest. But Anluiyu's eyes were brighter and sharper than an eagle's. He stood up, and his hands continuously drew in the air, and mysterious runes emerged one by one. Then those runes turned into beast spirits and fell behind Anluiyu. The huge owl bear with the head and wings of an owl, but the body of a bear. The black panther with a crescent moon mark on its forehead, black as ink, walking silently. The strange spirit fish surrounded by water and colorful scales. The huge tree man with branches and leaves tens of meters high. The thunder element with electric light flashing all over the body, half illusion and half reality. After the five beast spirits appeared, they all cast curious eyes on Chen Yu. Chen Yu could clearly sense that the strength of these five beast spirits was very strong and of high level. Mr. Chen Yu, I know you also got the beast spirit through soul fusion. But that is not the correct way for a druid to summon a spirit. The first lesson I taught you is to teach you how to awaken a spirit. A druid without a beast spirit will always be just an apprentice. Beast spirit, the key to the advancement of the druid profession. In the real world, Chen Yu was stuck at this step before he awakened. So the druid is called a profession with a low upper limit. After hearing Anluiyu's words and seeing the five majestic beast spirits, Chen Yu immediately stood up. Next, follow my instructions. Anluiyu stretched out his hand, with green light flowing from his fingertips, and tapped Chen Yu's forehead. At this moment, he felt a roar from his soul world. In the originally chaotic soul world, an area responded. That was where his soul bead was. The three soul beads of the earth giant bear, the emperor ape beetle, and the world tree all vibrated. Anluiyu's power was calm and soothing, flowing slowly like water. Chen Yu let go of his guard and let Anluiyu's energy drive him. Amaya clasped her hands together and looked at Chen Yu nervously. In her sight, Chen Yu suddenly exuded a strong aura. Behind Chen Yu, a vague vortex appeared, and three powerful beast souls were emerging inside. The first to emerge was the earth giant bear. Anluiyu's five beast spirits nodded, seeming to recognize the earth giant bear's rank. In their opinion, the earth giant bear was a good beast soul, and its future development prospects were not bad. The second one to emerge was the emperor ape beetle. The five beast spirits all showed curiosity, because this was a mutant beast soul. Although they did not know the emperor ape beetle, they could sense the powerful potential of the emperor ape beetle. It is one level higher than the earth giant bear, and can even be compared with them. At this time, the shadow of the emperor ape beetle, its compound eyes suddenly lit up. Its body shape was fluctuating violently, and gradually there were signs of turning from illusion to entity. Chapter 71. Ahead. Druids are children of nature. They obtain magical power from nature and display it. They can cast spells with magic and change their forms. They are healers, mages, and warriors. In the New World, 3 conditions are required to become a druid. These 3 conditions are actually the pre-job tasks for people in the real world. First, believe in nature and be willing to fight for the maintenance of natural harmony. Second, clearly understand the characteristics and knowledge of various animals and plants. Third, abide by neutrality. First, druids used to believe in the god of nature. But after the destruction brought by the abyss, Ming Zhao has been sleeping for many years. The god of nature has never responded to her believers since then. So much so that the creatures in the New World doubt whether the god of nature has fallen. Without the belief in a specific god, druids turn to believe in nature itself. This requires them to live in nature and stop any behavior that destroys nature. But for professionals, all this is unnecessary. Chen Yu became a druid when he first awakened. What about the task of changing his job? There is no need at all. And the relevant knowledge of druids will be gradually mastered by him as the skills are unlocked. As for the neutrality, people in the real world never care about it. There are good and bad things in this. The bad thing is that druids in the real world don't know how to develop their profession. But now Chen Yu has the great druid and Luoyue, and this problem is solved. In his soul world, in the rotating nebula, the appearance of the emperor ape beetle gradually becomes clear. In the previous trial, the emperor ape beetle had awakened the beast spirit through special means of soul fusion. But because it was still in the juvenile state, 707, it had been staying in Chen Yu's soul. Chen Yu didn't know how to make the beast spirit manifest, so he let the emperor ape beetle explore it himself. And now, Luoyue's power is guiding Chen Yu's actions step by step. He used his power, following Luoyue's guidance, and began to call the emperor ape beetle. With the change of the rhythm of the call and the operation of various mysterious soul imprints. In the outside world, the image of the emperor garden armor became clearer and clearer. Luoyue's beast soul stared at the emperor ape beetle, expecting the other party to appear. Beast souls are born from various animals and plants, but they are essentially different from them. The so-called beast soul condensation of the druid is actually the summoning of the spirit from the soul world. When you defeat the beast, depict its form and ability in the soul, and finally integrate the spirit into it, you will achieve the beast soul. Soul beads are props that help the spirit and soul beast merge. Luoyue's voice sounded in Chen Yu's mind. He explained to him one of the fundamental abilities of the druid, the nature of the beast soul. Hearing Luoyue's words, Chen Yu suddenly realized. Professionals only know how to use skills, and the effect is completed when the skills are over. Who cares what the principle is? But if you only know the result but not the reason, you will not go far. And Luoyue knew that Chen Yu, a foreigner, had never learned the druid doctrine, so he explained it to him in detail. The beast soul skill is to introduce the soul of the soul world into the beast body designed by oneself. The soul will fall into a deep sleep during this process and act purely on instinct. In this form, the beast soul transformation certainly has bonuses and abilities, but it is not a complete form. Only after awakening the soul, that is, activating the so-called beast soul, can the druid's soul be considered complete. Now, call your soul. Visualize your emperor ape beetle, let your soul understand and fully integrate. Use your soul power to depict natural runes, which can help you better achieve your goals. A mysterious rune appeared in front of Chen Yu, and he subconsciously followed and drew it. The next moment, the emperor ape beetle behind him let out a low roar, and completely changed from virtual to real. Your beast soul, the emperor ape beetle, has completely awakened the beast spirit. You have completed the prerequisites for sublimation, and you can sublimate after reaching the level standard. The emperor ape beetle has the ability to manifest and has the ability to practice itself. The emperor ape beetle's level limit has been broken, LV 10/15. The emperor ape beetle's evolution path is open, and you can evolve through spiritual practice or guide and assist the beast spirit. A series of information emerged. Chen Yu opened his eyes, and saw the tall Emperor Ape Beetle standing beside him. The Emperor Ape Beetle's face was full of reverence and joy, and he knelt down to Chen Yu. Master, I finally helped you in the real world. Master, don't worry, I will try my best to catch up with you. The voice of the Emperor Ape Beetle was a little childish, and it was hard to tell whether it was a man or a woman. But the tone of his speech was very firm, which reminded Chen Yu of the character entry of the other party. Emperor Ape Beetle character, perseverance. Perseverance. Ignore mental influence to a certain extent. The predecessor of the Emperor Ape Beetle, the Dragon Beetle King, exploded twice after being subdued by Chen Yu. If it were an ordinary beast soul, it would be discouraged or collapsed after being exploded one after another. Druids have always been cautious in cultivating their own beast spirits, fearing that something unexpected would happen. Sometimes, a well-cultivated beast soul will even have a sharp drop in quality after exploding once. But for the Emperor Ape Beetle, all of this is not a problem. Burned up. That's because I'm not strong enough. I dragged down my master. So I should work harder to train myself and strive to grow to the point where I can't be exploded. That's what the Emperor Ape Beetle thinks. After understanding it clearly, Chen Yu felt quite relieved. I didn't expect that the character of the first beast spirit that he successfully awakened would be so good. Although he didn't care about the growth of the beast soul, he didn't care if the soul was useless. But if the beast soul could grow up by self-pua, it would be good. Changing the beast soul again would be troublesome. After all, his requirements were not low. The predecessor of the Emperor Ape Beetle was a small boss in the trial world, and its quality was definitely good in the early stage. Later, it evolved into a dragon beetle after being stained with the blood of the magic dragon, and then evolved perfectly again with the evolution rune. Finally, it merged with the soul of the martial arts master Feng Yuan in the ancestral land of the Wind Elves. It can be said that it is almost impossible to find another one in the world with such an experience. The current result can be called a happy ending. Chen Yu patted the body of the Emperor Ape Beetle, and the shell was banging with his strength. Since the Emperor Ape Beetle has a good personality, just give it the maximum. The experience energy he used to upgrade to level 50 before came from the Dragon Boss Dollar, but the ones he had stored before were still kept. Now all of them will be thrown into the Emperor Ape Beetle. The Emperor Ape Beetle let out a strange cry, and golden light exploded on its body, and its level began to increase. Enloyue, Amaya, and the beast souls looked at the rapid upgrade of the Emperor Ape Beetle, and their expressions were quite strange. They knew that the upgrade of professionals in the other world was unreasonable. But after seeing it with their own eyes, they still felt that God was really unfair. The elf royal court has been in seclusion for a long time, and most elves never leave the royal court, and they hear more but see less. After a while, Chen Yu's stored experience energy was consumed. And the Emperor Ape Beetle also successfully upgraded to LV-15. Insect mutation, Beast Spirit Awakening, Emperor Ape Beetle form LV-15. Basic blessing. Basic attribute plus 1/5 per level. Attribute blessing. Constitution, Strength, Agility plus 300%. Young Beast Spirit, Personality, Perseverance. Characteristic Perseverance. When suffering from negative gain, the effect is reduced and the attack is increased. Features, Martial Will, Physical attack increases damage by 30%. Skills, Hard Armor, Explosive Armor, Pressure. Beast Spirit awakens, new skills are being formed. Beast Spirit will learn and combine its own new skills according to your fighting style. The attribute blessing increases by 20% per level, and the basic blessing also increases from 10 to 15. Chen Yu looked at the information fed back by the Emperor Ape Beetle, and couldn't help but feel relieved. Fortunately, the Emperor Ape Beetle didn't really explode in the West Mountain Ghost Cave. Otherwise, this wave would be a loss. There is a difference of 100% attribute blessing between the two. With his current super high basic attributes, especially the strength attribute, the difference can be 170,000 at once. Thinking of this, Chen Yu was relieved and became very excited. If he hadn't been rational, he would have almost returned to the real world and fought another battle on the 5th floor of West Mountain Ghost Cave. At this time, after Anluiyu helped Chen Yu awaken the Emperor Ape Beetle, his eyes and expression became serious. Amaya also clenched her hands and looked at the phantom of the world tree behind Chen Yu with reverence. As for Anluiyu's beast souls, they were speechless at this moment. World tree. Every beast spirit was stunned, especially Anluiyu's treeman beast spirit. It was an oak beast spirit, very powerful, but in front of the world tree, there was a fundamental gap between the two. The oak tree is the iconic sacred tree of the druids. But the word, world, in the name of the world tree proves its status. Seeing Chen Yu's world tree getting bigger and taller, with its canopy spreading horizontally, several beast spirits couldn't help but kneel down. Anluiyu even murmured miracles, his eyes full of tears, and knelt down to pray to the phantom of the world tree. Chen Yu had no time to stop them, and the elves and beast spirits in front of him all knelt on the ground. And his world tree had not yet awakened its beast spirit, so it was impossible for it to turn from virtual to real. In the virtual state, the world tree enlarged to more than 10 and then stopped changing. And Loyue, who was praying, keenly sensed the weak breath brought by the virtual shadow of the world tree. He jumped up, stared at the virtual shadow of the world tree with his eyes, and examined it carefully. After a while, the expression on his face was almost distorted with shock. Is the world tree dead? No, no, no. Not dead, but not alive either. Incredible. There is actually such a form. How did the world tree do it? Oh 11. As expected of the chief druid, Anluiyu quickly saw a lot of things from the shadow. Chen Yu only had time to explain the situation of the world tree to the old man at this time. This lecture started from the double-layer illusion of the trial world. When Chen Yu finished speaking, Anluiyu fell into a long contemplation. His expression was extremely complicated, looking at Chen Yu, hesitant to speak, as if he didn't know how to organize his words. Amaya had always shown great respect for Chen Yu before. He just thought that Amaya had too little experience, and Chen Yu did help the ancestral land of the Wind Elves. But now it seems that the little girl is clearly worshipping the king of their Wind Elves. Crown of the Wind Elves. Spirit Tree Wristband. Natural Belt. 3-piece set. The soul of the Wind Ape, the partner of the Wind Elf King, has now been integrated into his beast soul. In addition, the world tree controlled by the Wind Elves that was destroyed when resisting the abyss. To be precise, it is the reincarnated spirit of the world tree back then. In addition to giving him powerful strength, Anluo's long years also gave him profound knowledge. Just by listening to Chen Yu's retelling, he understood the origin of the world tree on Chen Yu's body. This world tree is not the same one as before, as the one had died in that battle. Completely destroyed by the dragon, the abyss will not let the world tree continue to survive here. They have already expected to be repelled, so the initial goal is to make a backup plan first. Corrupt the ancestral land of the Wind Elves and bury various dark arrays for backup, leaving it for the changes of time. When the Elf Royal Court has no time to take care of this side, it is the time for them to truly enter this world. So the king of the Wind Elves must die, and the Wind Elves must evacuate. Naturally, there is no reason for the world tree to survive, and the dragon must destroy the world tree anyway. At that time, the world tree, which had already had extremely high wisdom, saw through the real goal of the abyss at the last moment. So it separated its spirit and trapped it with its own power. Let the new spirit gradually grow up over the long years. When the new world tree matures one day, it will be the first to notice the arrangement left by the abyss. Because the world tree is very sensitive to all the forces related to the world. Who knows that the tree is not as good as the sky? The power of the abyss invasion is too strong, so the new world tree was eroded during its growth. Its vitality growth rate is equal to the speed of erosion, so it has always been in a weak stage. After the trial started, the abyss aura intensified its invasion, and the new world tree was suddenly in a life and death moment. If Chen Yu did not appear at that time, the new world tree would have only one way to die. At that time, its body would become an excellent material, and it would appear here with the fusion of illusions. Either it would be taken away by professionals from other worlds as an opportunity, or it would be taken away by the abyss as a good material. And all this has changed fundamentally because of the appearance of Chen Yu. The new world tree survived, relying on Chen Yu's unreasonable vitality to survive. If they were all new professionals, no one would have such a strong vitality to carry the world tree. But Chen Yu could. Not only could he do it, but even after carrying the New World Tree, he still had the strength to fight. I guess the dragon who is still in the abyss will be very upset after hearing the news. Mr. Chen Yu, how many springs of life do you say are needed to completely revive the World Tree? 1,000 standard units. Hearing this answer, the elves and beasts present fell silent. The so-called standard unit is roughly 1 cubic meter, which is the universal unit of measurement in the New World. It takes a year for 1 cubic meter of spring of life to condense in the elf royal court. That is to say, if you want to bring back a new world tree for the elf royal court, the elf royal court needs to accumulate the spring of life for 1,000 years first. How is this possible? The spring of life in the elf royal court is not unused. It is distributed to each lineage and the strong in the clan every year. Even if the royal court is in decline and the number of elves has greatly decreased, half of it must be given out every year. The imperial court may not even have 500 standard units of fountain of life now. This matter is very important. We need to report it to the queen immediately. Regarding the revival of the New World Tree, we must find another way to treat it. In Anluiyu's view, it is necessary to repair the injuries of the New World Tree through other auxiliary means first. See if the amount of fountain of life can be reduced. However, at this time, he thought of another possibility in his heart. If Chen Yu can grow to a strong enough level, his vigorous vitality itself is enough to support the revival of the New World Tree. This so-called strong enough, or reaching the level of the Elf Queen. Thinking of this, Anluiyu couldn't help shaking his head. I think he might have gone crazy. The young man in front of him has only awakened for less than 2 months, and it is a coincidence that he can have the strength at this time. And the queen is a powerful person who has sublimated to the 8th level. What is that concept? In this era when the gods are not there, the queen is one of the strongest people in the world. 3-headed beast soul. The emperor ape beetle successfully awakened the beast soul and can now materialize. The earth giant bear and the world tree are still in a shadowy state, and the beast souls are unknown. The situation of the earth giant bear and the world tree is not quite the same. The world tree itself has a spirit, but it has fallen into a deep sleep. As for the earth giant bear, as long as Chen Yu follows Anluiyu's guidance and continues to guide it, it can be awakened. After Anluiyu's hand-in-hand guidance with runes as a guide, Chen Yu has mastered the ability to awaken the spirit. On the skill panel, the explanation of his Beast Soul skill has also changed. Beast Soul LV5. Soul Orb 3/5 at full level, you have learned to stimulate the spirituality in the Beast Soul. All things have spirits, and Beast Souls also have spirits. They will be the most loyal partners of the Druid. Full-level Beast Soul skills are the beginning of the Druid's road. And Loyue is also very impressed that he can learn to awaken the spirit in such a short time. On the one hand, he certainly thinks that his teaching ability is not weak. But on the other hand, Chen Yu's learning ability is also very outstanding. Even in the royal court, among the many elves he has taught, Chen Yu can be among the best. Ahem, ability is just the external manifestation of druids. The core of druids is still our core, natural doctrine. The so-called druids are to be in harmony with nature and grow together. Beast souls are our companions and our best friends. Sacrifices. After teaching Chen Yu the core skill of beast soul advancement, Loyue will follow and teach him the path of orthodox druids. At the beginning, in the White Palace, he watched Chen Yu sacrifice beast souls one after another. It made his brain blood vessels burst. What kind of weird druid way is this? It feels like you want to become stronger, and then kill your wife directly to prove your truth. At Chen Yu's level, maybe he should kill his whole family to prove his head. In other words, Loyue doesn't know a comic that describes the struggle of a village. Otherwise, I have to ask Chen Yu if you are that born evil kid. Hearing Anluiyu's words, his beast spirits all shook, and looked at Chen Yu with unfriendly eyes. The spirits activated in the beast souls are almost all from the soul world. That is to say, the beast spirits in the world, in their roots, are all one family. Being blown up is miserable enough, but you sacrifice the souls that were blown up. If it weren't for seeing that the beast souls could continue to revive, Loyue probably wouldn't talk to Chen Yu again. But for the beast spirits, if Chen Yu's way to become stronger is to let the beast soul be blown up, then the beast soul is too pitiful, right? If the beast spirit is not determined enough, it will probably fall into a state of self-doubt. Abbreviation. Depression. Several beast spirits looked at the Emperor Ape Beetle on the side at the same time. The Emperor Ape Beetle has a strong character, and it is a natural fit for Chen Yu, and is not afraid of this kind of collapse at all. In fact, the more times he gets beaten up, the harder this guy will work. And Luoyue is determined to bring Chen Yu back to the orthodox druid path. Because the queen seems to be very concerned about Chen Yu, and Chen Yu is also very special to the Wind Elf lineage. He is likely to enter the Elf royal court and become one of them in the future. In this case, he has the obligation to take good care of Chen Yu. Who knew that Luoyue had just started talking, and Chen Yu turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. I have something outside, I will come back to continue studying after I solve it. And Luoyue had a mouthful of phlegm stuck in his throat and almost choked to death. Chen Yu left, and the Emperor Ape Beetle naturally disappeared with him. Only Amaya was still looking at the residual light with admiration. After returning to the Aurora camp in South City, Chen Yu drove directly back to the campus. He went to the old principal and wrote a paper on the description of how druids can awaken their spirits. When the old principal saw Chen Yu's paper, an uncontrollable ecstasy appeared on his face. Chen Yu had already gained such a harvest before the formal establishment of diplomatic relations with the elves. This kind of knowledge inheritance is what Sha country attaches the most importance to. However, although Chen Yu's paper describes in detail how to awaken spirits, not every druid can awaken their spirits smoothly. Chen Yu's strength is so good that everything comes naturally. Other druids still need to work hard to improve themselves before they can successfully awaken their beast souls. Summon your own spirit from the soul world and awaken your beast soul. With this paper alone, you will become an idol for all druid professionals in the country. Even for professions such as summoners, it has a certain inspiration effect. The old principal said to Chen Yu with emotion and helped him submit the paper to the National Treasury. Because it used Chen Yu's account, the level of authority of this paper was upgraded at the first time. Sha Country Library. The staff member in charge of data management suddenly saw a key message. In front of the information, there is a star, which means that the information needs to be processed first. The colleagues next to him also saw the red star on his screen and gathered around curiously. After all, star-marked files are not common. Some people have not seen them once in a year of work. Manager Meng, please open it and let us see. I haven't seen the star-marked content yet. Yes, Manager Meng, could it be that Miss Shu got some information in the new world again? Miss Shu hasn't updated for more than half a year, and it is getting more and more difficult to get new information now. The Miss Shu mentioned by several staff members is Shu He. As a person who has been traveling in the new world for a long time and joined the Tianxing organization, Shu He always has access to a lot of important information. She used to collect and organize these materials and hand them over to the national database. For this, she got a lot of points and received the gratitude of many professionals. Xiaoguo has a special professional data research center, and many researchers there are fans of Shula. The person called Manager Meng smiled. Everyone present was his own people, and there was nothing to hide. He immediately opened the message, and a title popped up. The core skill of the druid profession, Beast Soul, How to Awaken the Beast Spirit. Written by Chen Yu. Discovered by Chen Yu. Experimental record. Chen Yu Emperor Ape Beetle Physical Examination Data. It's the druid's Beast Soul Awakening. Who is Chen Yu? Why does this name sound so familiar? Dragon and Phoenix No. 1. Have you forgotten it? Everyone was surprised when they saw the title and talked about it. In today's Sha country, the druid profession has rushed to the top 10 of the professional popularity list. It's just because the druid profession ranks first in the list of 10 people in the Dragon and Phoenix. And the news that the druid beat the final boss in the battle at the Aurora camp in South City has also spread. It was able to participate in a large number of military and association professionals, and the King of Heaven was in charge. Not only did he win the first place in the trial, but he also overwhelmed the final boss and beat him to victory. No matter which one it is enough to make everyone re-examine the druid profession. All major institutions and organizations, even the official military and associations, are organizing druids for training. They all know that Chen Yu has achieved such success because of his talent. This is unique and cannot be copied or imitated. But the significance of the pioneers is that they can always open up a path through the thorns. The druids have been troubled for a long time because of the cut-off road ahead. Most of them are settled in the grassroots or middle level, struggling to prevent themselves from being eliminated. This accumulation, if it is released one day, will usher in explosive growth. And now, this opportunity has come. Manager Meng realized the importance of this information at the first time. Because Chen Yu's authority level is too high, he does not have the power to deal with the paper. So he submitted the paper to the highest review office at the first time and passed it to the office of the Council of Elders. In less than 10 minutes, the elders, the kings and the top leaders of the association saw Chen Yu's paper. The first elder, Elder Shu, sat at his desk with a happy smile on his face. Xiaoguo's investment in Chen Yu has just begun, and Chen Yu has not used these things much. He thought that Chen Yu needed to settle for a year or two before he could bring him new surprises. But he didn't expect that Chen Yu had reached the 5th level of the Ghost Cave with the help of the old principal not long ago. It has only been a few days since he came back, and he has published such a strategic level paper. Strategic level papers are comments made by the leaders of the National Research Office. Now the entire research office has put down almost all work and is fully studying Chen Yu's paper. They saw inspiration for druids, summoners and some unconventional magic professions in it. If Chen Yu's paper can be thoroughly understood, then these professions in Sha will usher in a wave of explosions. For Sha, this is no less than building an invincible giant ship that roamed the sea in the past. Mastering the abilities and technologies that other countries on Blue Star do not have means that Sha's authority will be greatly enhanced. Elder Shu was so happy that he couldn't stop talking when he thought of the faces of his mortal enemies such as the United States at the Blue Star Conference in the future. Tell the Research Institute that I will give Chen Yu the status of a special researcher. At the same time, understand the paper as soon as possible and give priority to the promotion of druids organized by the military and the association. In addition, strictly control the network. Before we fully master this technology, no words are allowed to appear. Elder Shu picked up the phone next to him and gave a few instructions to the office outside. Then he took out his mobile phone and asked about the whereabouts of his little daughter. When he learned that Shu He had returned to pack up and rushed to South City, the smile on his face gradually became anti. Just like that, under the instruction of Elder Shu, an invisible storm began to spread among the senior officials of Sha State. This time, Chen Yu's name really entered the hearts of the senior officials of all units. Many people even felt that Sha State seemed to be ushering in an incredible era. The Mausoleum of the First Emperor. This is one of the most famous tourist attractions in Sha State. However, Sha State later announced that most of the area was closed due to geological disasters. In fact, this place, like the West Mountain Ghost Cave, was also invaded and assimilated by the Abyss. Although it did not form a mythical secret realm, it was the first relic secret realm in the sequence of Sha State. Li Yu and Li Wei were resting in the camp inside at this moment. They had just finished a secret realm adventure, and Li Wei was feeling the process while eating. Li Yu picked up his mobile phone and checked the latest news. As the King of Heaven, he also had a lot of things to do, and some of them required his approval and nod. After he cleaned up his affairs, he saw the latest message, and his expression suddenly became strange. This was the report on Chen Yu's thesis. Li Yu spent half an hour reading the paper, as well as the comments from the institute and other authoritative personnel. He suddenly reached out and rubbed his eyebrows. Li Wei next to him looked at his uncle in confusion. He had never seen Li Yu with such an expression. Could it be that Xiaoguo encountered a major crisis to make the king frown? When Li Wei thought of this, he immediately stood up and looked at Li Yu with a firm face. Uncle, the country is in trouble, you should go. My nephew can take care of himself here. My strength is at least the third youngest. What a third youngest? Li Yu suddenly wanted to complain about Li Hui's words. But thinking of the two people listed in front of Li Wei, he had to hold his mouth. Shu He not only has extraordinary IQ and EQ, but also plays a great role in opening up a new world for Xiaoguo. His professional ability is also quite amazing. If he had focused on improving himself, he would have reached the level of a king by now. Shu He was once the hope of Xia country's future and the well-deserved first candidate of the young generation. But now Chen Yu has emerged. This guy is even more abnormal. Li Yu thought of Chen Yu's paper he had just seen. It explained the shackles of the druid and the awakening of the beast soul in a simple and easy-to-understand way. The point is that not only druid professionals can get answers from it. Even some other professions can get inspiration from it. Use the power of the soul, integrate your own spirit and will, and lead the soul into the body of the 100 souls realm. The druid's beast soul is actually awakened in this way. Can Li Hui's sword soul warrior do the same? Li Wei suddenly shuddered and felt that his uncle's eyes looking at him became subtle. Forget it, there's no point in you training with me again. Shu He said at the beginning that there were at most 3 quotas for the mission, and now she has teamed up with Chen Shui. Go over there, no matter how you beg or what means you use, join them. Li Hui's mouth was wide open, with a look of disbelief and disbelief. Since completing the devil's training with Li Yu has always let him move forward with the goal of being the first young man. Even after losing to Shu He before, Li Yu still didn't change his words. But now why does it sound like Li Yu thinks he has no hope? Listening to Li Yu's words, it's like asking Li Wei to be Chen Yu's follower. +X+1. You're right, that's what I mean. Quote. Li Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. He knew what his nephew was thinking before he even raised his tail. After receiving Li Yu's affirmative answer, Ji Wei was very happy. He had given up competing with Chen Yu, but was forced by Li Yu to not express his opinion. Uncle, I believe that as long as I keep working hard, I may surpass Chen Yu one day. Professionals rely on more than just numbers and force. Brains are also very important. My intelligence is definitely not inferior to Shu He. But it would be too unreasonable to just lie down, Li Wei pretended to refute 10 times. However, Li Yu just showed his nephew the papers and comments on his mobile phone with an expressionless face. After reading it, Li Wei turned around and left without saying a word. Looking at Li Hui's leaving figure, Li Yu shook his head helplessly at this time. If there is hope, who doesn't want to be the strongest among his peers? Quote. To suppress a generation, it feels refreshing and exciting just to think about it. Li Yu looked into the distance with a gloomy gaze, where the mausoleum of the first emperor, which had been assimilated by the abyss, exuded a dark mist. Before entering it, one could feel the dangerous atmosphere coming from the mausoleum. The Xia kingdom had already conquered the 4th floor of the Qishan Ghost Cave. As for the mausoleum of the first emperor, the Xia kingdom was still wandering around the 2nd floor. Li Yu thought about it and walked towards the teleportation entrance of the secret realm. The reason why he asked Li Wei to join Chen Yu was because he had felt the pressure from Chen Yu. He felt that in a short time, Chen Yu might be removed from the Dragon and Phoenix 10. The reason for the removal was nothing else, because his opponent was no longer a young generation. Putting him together with the young generation would only make the young people of the Xia kingdom despair. In order to protect the young people of the Xia kingdom, this despair might have to be borne by these guys. Where did this monster come from? Thinking of this, Li Yu couldn't help but curse. That night, Shu He and Li Wei appeared on the campus of Nanjing University at the same time. Chen Yu hurriedly left the ancestral land of the Wind Elves, not to publish a paper, but to complete her mission with Shu He first. In the spacious lounge, Chen Yu, Shu He, Li Wei and the old principal gathered in one room. Yuan Yunying was making tea for them on the side. Chen Yu's eyes turned back and forth between Shu He and Li Wei, as if asking what this meant. Brother Chen, my uncle asked me to hang out with you. I am Li Wei, the 3rd of the Dragon and Phoenix, and I will definitely be your good helper. Li Wei sat on the chair in a proper manner and said to Chen Yu with a standard 8-tooth smile. Hearing his words, the old principal next to him couldn't help but twitch his mouth. At the beginning, he formed a team with others and took a group of potential seeds to experience. At that time, Li Yu was already very outstanding, and both his character and strength were impressive. It was hard for him to imagine that such words would come from Li Yu's mouth. That guy is not the 2nd oldest in the world, but the 3rd oldest. His own nephew, who is also a good candidate for the 3rd Dragon and Phoenix, actually let him come and hang out with Chen Yu. Li Wei and Li Tianwang have both contacted me. I think Li Hui's strength is still okay. The upper limit of the number of people in the mission is 3 people. Bringing Ji can also reduce a lot of trouble. Shu He also explained to Chen Yu with a smile. In fact, if Chen Yu did not agree to Shu He at the beginning, then Shu He's ideal partner would be Li Wei. She was able to defeat Li Wei because Li Wei had not been exposed to too many battles and adventures in the New World. There is still some lack of personal experience, especially since he has not been to the Qishan Ghost Cave, and his skills are not enough. But as she said, if Jia can gather Chen Yu, her, and Li Wei, then she has 100% confidence that this mission can be successfully completed. Yuan Yuning, who was making tea, sighed in her heart. Now Chen Yu is in contact with such people. The daughter of the first elder, the nephew of Tianwang, and the peers of the second and third dragon and phoenix. When facing Chen Yu, one must be humble. Chen Yu didn't say a word, and the two hurried to explain. Yuan Yuning was very glad that she had contacted Chen Yu before he had completely emerged. And she left a good impression on Chen Yu, which is why she has a position to make tea now. If she mentioned this position in the organization, I don't know how many people would rush for it. Shu He, can you increase the difficulty of your task? It means increasing the difficulty of the task in exchange for better rewards or honors in the future. Chen Yu looked at Shu He and said, adding another Li Wei is no problem for him. Li Wei is not bad in terms of attitude and strength. After all, it was Shu He who recognized Li Wei, and he still trusted Shu He's eyes. Chen Yu hurriedly left the ancestral land of the Wind Elves, actually wanting to find a place that is dangerous enough. Let his little cute Emperor Ape feel the taste of being beaten. With the current bonus and attributes of the Emperor Ape Beetle, the attributes he will gain after sacrificing once will be very terrifying. He will even go directly to the 4 major celebration villages of Sha Country. It has only been a short time since Sha Country launched the 4 Heavenly Kings, but he did not expect that he could surpass these predecessors. Seeing that Chen Yu did not object, Li Wei breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and his sitting posture became slightly relaxed. He even began to look forward to the time when Chen Yu's strength was improved to the Heavenly King level. By then, Chen Yu should no longer be included in the Dragon and Phoenix 10. His comparison object should be changed to the Heavenly King. In that case, the only competitor of Li Wei, Shu He, will be left beside him. The pressure is greatly reduced. Shu He on the other side showed a puzzled expression, not understanding why Chen Yu asked this. The difficulty of the task has increased. If I complete the mission this time, I will be awarded the title of Star of the Tianxing organization, which means I will be a formal member. If you want to get a higher reward, simply lighting the lighthouse is not enough. Quote. Shu He introduced the various hierarchical systems and authorities of the Tianxing organization to Chen Yu. The strongest of Tianxing are the 3 stars. These 3 people are the strongest and the highest-ranking ones. All members of the Tianxing organization obey the orders of these 3 people. Below these are the 12 stars, and below the 12 stars are the scattered stars. The scattered stars are actually formal members, and only formal members can obtain the title of stars. The promotion task of scattered star members is generally to light the lighthouse in the Black Wilderness. The promotion of the 12 stars is to complete 10A level difficulty tasks in a row, or to stop 3 major events. Most of these major events are related to the Abyss. For example, the illusion of the Aurora camp invaded reality this time, and the Abyss revived again. For the Tianxing organization, it is a major event. Of course, if you are strong enough, you can also make an exception and be promoted to the 12 stars. The current 12 stars of the Tianxing organization still have 3 vacancies. After hearing Shu He's explanation, Chen Yu put his hand on his chin and fell into deep thought. He reviewed Shu He's mission and the historical background of the Black Wilderness in his mind. The Black Wilderness was constantly being eroded by the corrupt breath left by the Abyss. Every once in a while, there would be a terrible mutant monster invasion. In history, how many monster bosses appeared in the Black Wilderness that were comparable to the Ghost Cave Asura King or the 3 Great Commanders? I have read the records, and there have been at least 17 appearances of monsters that were comparable to the Asura King. There were 8 other times that they were stronger than the Asura King, and 39 times that they were stronger than the 3 Great Commanders. Quote. Shu He had also been to West Mountain Ghost Cave for training, and had an intuitive understanding of the strength of the bosses on the 5th floor. She didn't need to think too much, and directly reported a clear number to Chen Yu. It is difficult for mutant monsters to invade on a large scale, because all countries have been clearing them out regularly before. Hearing Shu He's words, Chen Yu's eyes lit up. He doesn't have the confidence to fight King Asura yet, because he feels that King Asura's strength is probably more than one turn of sublimation. At the beginning, Li Yu was also unable to resist King Asura, proving that the other party is guaranteed to be at the peak of the first turn. But in fact, it may be stronger. What he needs now is an opponent whose strength is limited to the first turn of sublimation. Even the peak is fine. He can use this opportunity to consume this explosion to solve a big monster in exchange for enough benefits. This is much more cost-effective than going directly to the domestic king to fight and explode. In that case, let's hurry up and set off. After completing your task, I will go to the depths of the Black Wilderness to explore. Quote. Shu He, Li Wei, and Yuan Yunying were shocked when they heard this, and Principal Tu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. However, Chen Yu didn't intend to explain too much to them. Shu He naturally didn't object. Everyone was an adult and had their own ideas. Outsiders could not intervene when the mission was in progress, but there would be no restrictions after the mission was completed. At that time, she would go with Chen Yu to see the situation. Anyway, she would not let Chen Yu take risks alone. Li Wei thought to himself, thinking that Dragon and Phoenix number 1 was like this. There have been so many records of monsters stronger than Asura King, and he still dared. Could it be that Chen Yu now has the confidence to fight monsters of that level? The more he thought about it, the more frightened he became, and Li Hui's attitude became more respectful. He silently mourned for his uncle for a while. How can the 4 heavenly kings show off in front of Chen Yu in the future? As for Yuan Yunying, she just lamented that she was not even qualified to participate in Chen Yu's actions. But she was not a main professional, and her strengths were management and logistics. As long as she did a good job in Chen Yu's logistics, she would not be Yu abandoned. Especially with Shu He, she is totally incomparable with Shu He, and can only recognize herself. The group didn't talk much. Since they had determined the target, they set off immediately. When they left the lounge, all the members of the Torch organization were waiting in the hall outside. Seeing the door open, Chen Yu walked out first with his head held high. Behind him, whether it was Shu He or Li Wei, they all quietly stayed half a step away, and were immediately surprised. They all knew Shu He and Li Wei. Especially Shu He. When they were in Beijing, no one dared to be presumptuous in front of each other. This person is simply the big sister of the second generation, and her prestige is very high. Have you ever seen her follow her peers like this? Chen Yu, Shu He, and Li Wei were all very powerful, and the second generation didn't dare to step forward for a while. But Yuan Yunying saw this group of people, and immediately took a few quick steps and whispered a few words beside Chen Yu. Then Chen Yu stopped and everyone looked at him. Meet the first dragon and phoenix. When the second generation saw Chen Yu stop, they all greeted Chen Yu respectfully. Chen Yu did not put on airs, and smiled and nodded in return. He took Yuan Yunying over and exchanged a few words with the second generation, hoping that Yu would develop the Torch organization well. Shu He and Li Wei watched silently from behind. The last bit of strange thoughts in the hearts of the second generation also completely dissipated, and they saw Chen Yu's position clearly. With a firm mind, everyone became excited again. The thought of being able to be in an organization headed by Chen Yu, the future will probably be bright. Chen Yu's style of doing things is quite lone wolf, but it does not mean that he is a lone wolf. Developing the Torch organization to help him solve some miscellaneous problems is his established goal. It doesn't take much to communicate with the second generation and encourage them a few words, so why not do it? The truth is that if this group of people grow up, then he will no longer have any obstacles in Xiaoguo. Now the older generation asks for whatever he wants from him, and if the younger generation also obeys his orders, then at least it is certain that he will not have internal friction in the country in the future. Once the situation of being in a tight spot in the front and in the back occurs, it is also very unappetizing. 10 minutes later, Chen Yu said goodbye to Yuan Yunying and other Torch members. They came to the teleportation base station and prepared to enter the new world here. Because it was Shu He's mission, it was necessary to set the beacon with Shu He as the center. Several people first formed a team with the Team Stone, and then teleported to the New World under the leadership of Shu He. The place where they appeared was a room with an exotic style. This is one of my bases in the New World. Stormwind City of the Human Empire, Kylan Empire. This used to be the frontline base against the Black Wilderness, 80 kilometers away from the Black Wilderness. Shu He took Chen Yu, Li Wei, and the old principal out of the room and came to the living room outside. Chen Yu went up to the roof terrace as soon as possible and looked at the city in the New World. After changing his job, Chen Yu learned about the appearance of the New World from the library. This world is not as many people imagine, all in the Middle Ages. On the contrary, because of the diversity of professional abilities, the New World is more like a unique scene of technology and magic. The roads are clean and the houses are neat and orderly. The lights on the road emit different degrees of light according to the changes in the sky. These are all realized through magic array patterns, which are equivalent to the power network in the real world. But the energy provided by the magic array patterns is charged. In contrast, the New World also has power transmission, which is more used by civilians. Chen Yu saw carriages pulled by alien horses and RVs driven by energy stones on the road. Different styles were strangely integrated here. Most of the people on the road were human, and occasionally a few strange aliens could be seen. He looked up at the sky again and found that airships flew over Stormwind City from time to time. These airships all followed fixed routes, which must have been regulated. After he awakened, he had not really been to the New World, and everything looked very novel to him. Experiencing the unique atmosphere of this world, Chen Yu truly felt. This is not a game. This is a real world. Times are really changing. If such a world is really integrated with Blue Star will probably suffer a great impact. The various technologies of Blue Star are probably no advantage in the New World. No wonder the countries of Blue Star are exploring the New World while strictly controlling the intelligence of the New World. In Sha country, the professional association is also growing very rapidly. The 4 heavenly kings even have the same power as the Elders' Council, or even more. Everyone is preparing for the day of integration. Hope that after the integration, they can still ensure their own continuation. It is not to be directly annexed by the New World. The style of this world is much more direct and barbaric than that of Blue Star. In the New World, there are still slave states today. Shu He, Li Wei and the old principal did not follow Chen Yu, but arranged travel affairs in the living room. They have all been to the New World and explored it many times, and they all know something about this world. When Chen Yu came back, they were all ready. Chen Yu appreciated this vigorous and decisive style of doing things, and pointed to the door. Let's go. Quote, the Black Wilderness is a forbidden area, there is no means of transportation, we need to go there by ourselves. Quote, Shu He immediately took a few people out of her house and entered the suburbs through the city gate. In the wild, you can still see traffic roads extending out. There is an endless stream of vehicles coming and going, Li Hao Jiao, and the speed is faster than in the city. The old principal tapped his finger and summoned several wind currents to surround them. Wind flow technique. It can increase the speed of professionals to a certain extent. With the strength of the old principle, as mentioned above, the control of skills. With the blessing of this wind flow technique, their speed will not be slower than the vehicles on the road, and even more flexible. In order to start this task, Shu He needs to contact the contact person of the organization first. Tianxing has people stationed on the edge of the Black Wilderness all year round. Several people ran along the road at a very fast speed. Even after leaving the road and entering the wilderness area, they still moved at full speed. Some wandering monsters occasionally appear along the way, but they dare not move forward because of the momentum of several people. Chen Yu didn't even look at these minor characters. Finally, after spending most of the day, Shu He led them to a stone house in the wilderness. The stone house was modeled on the outside, and it had obviously experienced countless storms. After Shu He knocked on the door, a tall man walked out of the stone house. The other party looked friendly, and after seeing Shu He's initial organization logo, he welcomed them in. Chen Yu didn't say a word the whole time, just observing silently. The stone house didn't look big, but the inside was dug half a floor underground, and it didn't feel depressing. In addition to the welcoming man, there were 2 other people resting in the house. Shu He, These two are Bex and Lanya, both of whom are newcomers to the test this time. As for me, you can just call me Bard. Are you Lord Bard of the God Bull Star? Shuhi couldn't help but exclaimed when he heard the man's self-introduction. Hearing Shuhi's words, Chen Yu couldn't help but look at the man more. He found that without the identification technique, he couldn't see the man's background at all. Even the aura of the other party's strength cannot be sensed. Generally speaking, even without the identification technique, professionals can feel the pressure of the other party's aura. If they cannot feel it, it only proves that the other party is much stronger than themselves. Shuhi did not hide her surprise. She thought that for a newcomer test, the person in charge of the connection was a scattered star. Unexpectedly, it was the 12 stars. The titles of the members of the Tianxing organization are all based on the stars in the sky. The stars in this world are different from those in the real world, but there are still things like constellations. It's just that they are not called zodiac constellations or the names of ancient Shah. However, Chen Yu did not know much about the stars in this world, but just noticed them. The two people who also came to participate in the trial next to them were brightened when they heard Shuhi's name. Haha, it just so happens that there is something to watch here recently. I took over the newcomer test. Shuhi, you are a rare outstanding newcomer in our Tianxing recently, and they have been waiting for you for a long time. Bud smiled and waved his hand, very approachable. There is no airs of the top leaders of the organization, which makes people feel good. Hearing Bud's words, the two people over there also stood up and walked over at the same time. Bex is a thin man with long hair tied into braids. Lanya is a short-haired woman wearing a mage robe, with light spots scattering as she walks. Mage robes with this effect are usually very expensive. Hello Shuhi, we have been waiting for you here for a long time. For this test, I think we can form a team, just 3 people. Bex said after shaking hands with Shuhi. These 2 people who are also going to take the test are waiting here specifically for Shuhi. The old principal couldn't help but look at Shuhi, and didn't expect that the other party was doing well in both worlds. In the real world, it can be said that he has his father's background. But in the new world, Shuhi is equivalent to starting from scratch. But not only the top executives of Tianxing appreciate Shuhi, but even the newcomers of the same period also value her. And such a girl of destiny is very low-key in front of Chen Yu. All the way here, Chen Yu is almost the leader, and rarely makes his own decisions. Hearing Beck's invitation, Shuhi was slightly stunned and then rejected the other party. Sorry, I already have teammates. These 2 are my friends from the same place, and they will help me complete the task. Shuhi slightly stepped aside and introduced Chen Yu and Li Wei to the people in the organization. As for the old principal, he said that he was here to observe. When Bex and Lanya heard about the Sword Soul Warrior, they couldn't help but look at Li Wei. In the real world, professions with special prefixes are at least A level or above. In the new world, professions with special prefixes are also attracting attention. Because it means that a person has begun to come into contact with some kind of true meaning. These kinds of people may not be 1 in a million. The 2 of them immediately stood up in awe and saluted Li Wei solemnly. This made Li Wei quite embarrassed, because Shuhi and Chen Yu beside him were both better than him. But he couldn't speak casually, so he nodded with a straight face. Bex and the others just thought that Li Wei was cold and arrogant by nature, and didn't care. Although it was a pity that they could not form a team with Shuhi, they were all members of Tianxing, so there would be no bad words. Those who could enter the Tianxing organization must have good character and values, not to mention other aspects. They had been waiting here for a few days. Since they could not form a team, they said goodbye and left immediately. The test period was fixed. The earlier you go, the earlier you can finish it. In case of difficulties, there is time to reorganize. After the 2 left, Bard asked Shuhi and others to take a rest first. After sitting down, he looked at Chen Yu with interest. Druid from another world, I wonder if you are interested in joining Tianxing. When Bard said this, Shuhi, Li Wei, and the old principal couldn't help but look up. Especially Shuhi, when she joined Tianxing, she also went through many tests before she was invited. But I have never seen anyone make an invitation directly when they meet. Is it because of the druid profession? Shuhi immediately thought of Chen Yu's profession. Druids, well-known nature protectors, are very consistent with the philosophy of the Tianqing organization. Shu He's guess was only half right. At this time, Bard looked calm on the surface, but he was quite surprised in his heart. He was a strong man who had sublimated to the 3rd level, and he had been training in the wild for a long time, so he was quite good at spying on other people's strength. Because in the places he went, if the strength assessment was too wrong, it might lead to death. And he clearly sensed the aura of strength far beyond that of this level in Chen Yu. In his eyes, the principal strength was certainly the strongest among the few. But it was already the end of the force, and there was no future. Li Wei and Shu He were equivalent, and both were at the same level. On the contrary, Chen Yu, compared with the few people around him, was like a sun. In Chen Yu's body, Bard could sense a constant surge of power. This perception conflicted with Chen Yu's profession. You should know that druids are magic-oriented professions, and strength has never been their main attribute. Moreover, he could sense that the beast soul in Chen Yu had awakened. No need to join, I don't agree with your organization's philosophy. But cooperation is still possible. Facing Bard's invitation, Chen Yu refused. This made the old principal's mouth twitch. He thought to himself, how come this kid doesn't understand the moderate style of our Sha country at all? First pretend to be nice, and slowly get closer to the other party, at least there are many ways. But then he thought of Chen Yu's relationship with the elf royal court, and the old principal was relieved immediately. Compared with the elf royal court, the Tianqing organization is really nothing. Bard smiled and said nothing. After all, he is just a young man with some potential, so he doesn't take it too seriously. Next, Bard handed over the map of the lighthouse area that he was responsible for this time to Shu He. At the same time, he put a crystal ring on Shu He to monitor Shu He's mission process. If Shu He asked someone outside the team to assist, then the crystal ring's records could be used to make a judgment afterwards. At the same time, this crystal ring could also guide Shu He to the direction of the lighthouse. It was equivalent to a simple detector. After the handover was completed, Shu He said goodbye to Bard and headed for the Black Wilderness. After coming out of the stone house and going deeper for more than 50 miles, the earth began to turn black. Stepping over this line means that you have truly entered the Black Wilderness area. Here, the air is filled with a disgusting stench. There is floating gray fog everywhere, and the visual environment is quite bad. Chen Yu, who has the passive heart of nature, can't feel the existence of any natural factors here. This makes him feel a little uncomfortable. Without natural elements, even the power of nature cannot work. Fortunately, he has never relied on these two skills to fight, and the impact is almost zero. In order to prevent being judged as cheating, the old principal did not follow in. The 3 of them took Shu He as the vanguard and went straight to the first lighthouse marked on the map. In the drifting mist, corrupted and deformed monsters rushed out from time to time and attacked them. Shu He did not even look at them, and directly activated his own skills, and several halos were put on the 3 people. The Brilliant Knight is originally a team-oriented profession. After putting on the halo, the strength of several people increased greatly, and they almost ignored the attacks of the monsters. Chen Yu did not take action throughout the whole process, but just observed quietly. All the monsters along the way were dealt with by Li Wei. The profession of Sword Soul Warrior relies on stimulating the Sword Soul to add special effects. After reading Chen Yu's Beast Soul paper, Li Wei also consciously guided his Sword Soul. In the end, he really found some ways. He felt that he should not only have one Sword Soul, but also be able to develop into a multi-Sword Soul mode. According to different battle situations, switching different Sword Souls to deal with them is the development route of the Sword Soul Warrior. After killing all the way and going deep into the Black Wilderness for a day and a night, the 3 finally arrived at their destination. What came into view was a lighthouse with a mottled exterior that looked like it could collapse at any time. The lighthouse was 50 meters high and as straight as a gun. The light source on the top was extremely weak and could only illuminate a 10-meter radius around it. Outside that 10-meter radius, the fog was like a sea, and there were countless monsters hiding inside, roaring continuously. Next, I will be responsible for the charge, and you will help me and rush into the tower. Shu He observed for a while and said to Chen Yu and Li Wei. She had come to the Black Wilderness for testing before, and she didn't know how many tactics she had formulated, and she seemed calm. It was just different from what she had imagined. Facing her proposal, Chen Yu shook her head. Don't bother so much, let me try it first. Chen Yu walked out and pressed on the natural belt. The next moment, a huge world tree rose from the ground. The sudden change disturbed the monsters in the mist, and hundreds of monsters suddenly emerged and rushed over here. But Chen Yu just took a deep breath and then let out a long roar. Dragon Roar. Soul Attack. The long roar brought waves of invisible shock waves to sweep in all directions. The corrupted monsters fell to the ground and screamed, and some even exploded and died directly. The gray mist was also dispelled a lot, revealing the empty wilderness around. With just one blow, Shuhi was shocked to see that thousands of monsters were killed. The rest of the monsters hiding in the mist also fled for their lives, no longer caring about the lighthouse. A question mark appeared on Li Hui's forehead. He looked at Shuhi, as if asking if I was a bit redundant. He killed many monsters along the way and knew the strength of these monsters very well. The levels are almost all in the 30s and 40s. Because of the corruption, the body looks tattered but very tough. He also used the sword soul to kill with one sword. If it were a normal attack, about 100 monsters would be able to entangle him. But what is the situation now? Chen Yu roared with a dragon and directly cleared the monsters within a range of several kilometers. All were killed in one hit, and those who were not dead only had a breath left. At this moment, Li Wei and Shu He really understood why Chen Bao was the third of the dragon and phoenix. And the identity information is top secret. This is a killer. Shu He's eyes sparkled, looking at the world tree transformed by Chen Yu, and his mind was full of imagination. At this time, in the stone house on the edge of the Black Wilderness, someone else came here. After opening the door, it was a titan. I say, can't the stone house be built higher? The titan was nearly 4 meters tall, and after entering the stone house with a low waist, Bard on the opposite side complained. If Shu He was here, he would know that this person is also one of the 12 stars of Tianxing, the giant bear star Grayer. Hearing his companion's complaint, Bard just smiled and did not respond. In front of him, a light screen appeared on the fire, and inside was the Beck's team participating in the test. Obviously, Bard was monitoring the test of the newcomers in real time. Seeing the light screen, Titan Grayer also sat down by the fire. It's not a good time to let the newcomers take the test now, right? I have found out that there are new king-level monsters born in the Black Wilderness. Titan took off the wine non from his waist and took a sip, and said to Bard. Bard's expression changed when he heard it. The reason why the 12 stars are here is because there is danger in the Black Wilderness. Every once in a while, the wilderness will create a powerful boss. In the New World, it is called a king-level monster. The Tianxing organization sensed the changes here through its own methods, so it sent people to explore. But for them, isn't it a bit of an overreaction to send 2 of the 12 stars to attack a mere king-level monster? Seeing Bard's expression, Grayer took out a crystal ball. The crystal ball contained a piece of black jade-like fragment, emitting a strange light. Bard couldn't help but stand up at the first sight of the fragment. Abyss crystal. Has another deep channel opened in the Black Wilderness? It must be, but I haven't found it yet. Grayer's expression was also not good. The opening of the Abyss channel means that the Black Wilderness is likely to usher in an Abyss invasion. At that time, there will be a huge Abyss army and a large number of Abyss masters. Grayer has sent back the message, and now their latest task is to find and close the channel. The Crane Girl will be sent to support us. Before that, I think we should evacuate the newcomers and let us light the lighthouse directly. Titan glanced at the picture in the light curtain and said aloud. There, Bex and Lanya have arrived at the lighthouse range and are opening up a road. If the Abyss channel is opened, the lighthouse will definitely be the primary target. The chance of death for newcomers facing such a large-scale attack is as high as 90%. The Tianxing organization is not a ruthless organization, and there is no tradition of sacrificing members at will. Even newcomers who have not passed the test. Bard nodded and approved Grayer's decision. He immediately took out a crystal ring and poured his energy into it. This is a matching prop with the crystal ring on Shuhi and the others. It can not only monitor, but also transmit information. But before Bard spoke, the crystal ring suddenly vibrated with a buzzing sound. Shuhi's team has already lit a lighthouse, and 2 are still missing. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Bard looked puzzled. How long has Shuhi left him? The 2 people who left first were still entangled with the monsters, and they hadn't entered the lighthouse yet. Shuhi's side was directly lit up successfully. He immediately activated Shuhi's crystal ring and threw it into the light. The mottled lighthouse emitted a bright light, shining into the depths of the wilderness. Around the lighthouse, the bodies of monsters lying on the ground in all directions had turned into black pus. From the eyes of Bard and Grar, it was immediately clear that the range of monster casualties was nearly 1 kilometer. He immediately input energy and let the crystal ring project the previous picture. Then Bard and Grar were shocked to see the appearance of the world tree. Moreover, this is a world tree that can roar like a dragon. Grar stood up in shock and almost hit the roof of the stone house. Is this the world tree? Why does the world tree appear in such a place? When did a new member of our organization get the world tree? 3 questions in a row. However, Bard was also confused. But he soon saw where Chen Yu was on the world tree. All the questions in his mind were answered at once. It's that druid. One of his beast souls is the world tree. Old druid, are you crazy? Have you ever heard of a druid who can turn a world tree into a beast soul? Glar cursed. They are not unfamiliar with the profession of druid. In the long history, the plant that druids have changed the most is the oak. It is the tree of faith of the druids, which has special powers. But this is the world tree. Bard opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. But he soon realized a problem. The abyss passage has been opened, and the crisis is coming. The world tree is the sacred tree of the elf royal court. The relationship between the 2 is almost equivalent, and no other race has ever been seen to have a world tree. Chen Yu can transform the world tree. This phenomenon brought great shock to Bard and Grar. This feeling is like kindergarten children playing games. As a result, a child said that my toy is a transformer. Come, I will make one for you. Then the toy car in his hand really turned into a fire robot. Bard and Grar, the 2 kindergarten teachers, were stunned. We will talk about the world tree later. Let them come back now, and wait for the organization to decide on the test. Grar was the first to come back to his senses and said quickly to Bard. The concept of the Tianqing organization is to maintain order. The Elf Royal Court has always been their potential ally, and they have communicated with each other. At present, whether it is the opening of the Abyss Channel or the protection of Chen Yu who has the ability of the World Tree for some reason, they have to stop the test. Bard activated the crystal ring and guided the inside to start transmitting information. Black Wilderness. Chen Yu roared and cleared the battlefield, and the 3 of them entered the lighthouse easily. Shuhi took out the energy source crystal he got from Bard, unlocked, replaced, and started. The process went as smoothly as a dream. None of the many plans and unexpected situations she had expected happened. This made Shuhi feel quite unnatural, and she couldn't help but look at Chen Yu next to her. At this time, Chen Yu was observing the decorative runes inside the lighthouse. In fact, the entire lighthouse is covered with such runes. According to Shuhi, it was built by the joint efforts of various tribes back then. There are many stone tablets where the lights are located on the top floor. Sensing the gazes of Shuhi and Li Wei, Chen Yu turned around and waved at them. Speed up. The difficulty of the lighthouse test seems to be just average. Complete the test as soon as possible so that I can explore the depths of the wilderness. The difficulty is average. Shuhi smiled helplessly. Only Chen Yu could say this so naturally. For newcomers like them, it is actually quite difficult to successfully complete this test. Not only do they have to clear the monsters on the periphery to prevent them from rushing to the tower after they leave. At the same time, they also have to quickly light up the 3 lighthouses, as time is limited. When the light of the lighthouse is on, it will naturally attract powerful monsters in the Black Wilderness. This was one of the original intentions of designing the lighthouse formation. Defense alone is hopeless. Only by attracting monsters and then destroying them can the wilderness be permanently safe. However, Shuhi shook his head and quickly threw away the complaints in his mind. With Chen with such a powerful helper like you, it is a great task to complete the test quickly. At this time, the runes on the wall began to glow slightly after the source crystal was replaced. The light of the lighthouse, which was originally only used to block, began to have lethality. If there are monsters coming at this time, they will suffer continuous damage as soon as they step into the range of the light, until the monster finally falls under the light. However, the runes still need a certain amount of charging time, which is about 3 hours. During this period of time, if a powerful monster appears, it can still withstand the damage and rush to the bottom of the tower. They can climb up the tower and smash the light source again. So Chen Yu is right, speed is the key. The plan for attacking was not used, but the plan for defending the tower was not a problem. Li Wei stayed alone to guard the open tower, while Chen Shui and Shu He went to the next place. With Li Hui's strength, he only needed to stay at the top of the tower and wait for the powerful monsters that could break through the light. Not long after the two left, Li Wei, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. At this time, a voice suddenly came from the Black Tower. The test is over, please return to the stone house first. The Black Wilderness is at risk of an imminent outbreak, please return immediately. Li Wei could tell that it was the voice of Lord Bard in the stone house. The content of the words shocked Li Wei, and he jumped up all of a sudden. Why is there a notification in the tower? But Chen Yu and the others have already left, can they receive the message? The crystal ring of the Tianxing organization can only use the Black Tower to transmit information. The Black Tower is like a signal tower, amplifying the receiving power of the crystal ring. Otherwise, the crystal ring alone cannot complete the communication. This prop only has a basic recording function, and it can only transmit images and sounds after arriving near the Black Tower. Li Wei didn't know the principle of the crystal ring, but he intuitively felt that he couldn't stay here any longer. He must notify Chen Yu and Shu He as soon as possible. In the wilderness, Chen Yu changed into the Emperor Ape Beetle form, spread his insect wings and flew at a low altitude. Shu He was held in his arms by his middle two arms. Originally, there was Li Wei. Chen Yu was not easy to arrange, but now that only Shu He was left, it didn't matter. There was floating fog everywhere, and he couldn't see too far away. Fortunately, with the guidance of the crystal ring, the two were sure that they were still in the right direction. At this time, the ground of the Black Wilderness suddenly shook, and it could be clearly seen that there were small stones jumping constantly. The floating fog also began to roll like the sea, one wave after another. This sudden change made Chen Yu stop moving forward and look around vigilantly. He put Shu He on the ground and let Shu enter the combat state. Although it was easy to flatten the monsters blocking the tower before, this is a Jedi after all. Who knows if a powerful boss will suddenly appear. Chen Yu released the Emperor Ape Beetle form and let the Emperor Ape Beetle appear alone in the outside world. He himself changed into the World Tree. In this form, he can more clearly perceive the changes around him. There is a circle of ripples under the roots of the tree that continues to spread outward, which is the spread of the world domain. With Chen with Yu's current spiritual power, the world domain will be 150,000 meters in diameter once it is expanded. But he frowned immediately afterwards, because he found that the Black Wilderness actually suppressed the scope of his domain. Not only that, the gray pigments also prevented him from getting specific feedback in the domain. It seems that the erosion over the years has made this land very strange. The drowsy soul of the World Tree sent out a feeling of disgust, and it obviously didn't like the environment here. Since you can't see clearly, just push it all. Chen Yu has always been decisive. When he saw that the exploration effect was not good, he decided to take action immediately. He clasped his hands together and used the natural way, the roots of the tree entangled. Shu He was shocked to see that with Chen Yu's world tree as the center, countless roots were turned over in the ground within tens of thousands of kilometers in all directions. After these roots pierced the ground, they pushed out like a wave. I don't know how many monsters were hit by this super large-scale attack, screamed and died in the fog. Chen Yu didn't care whether he could see the enemy or not, as long as the range was covered. Shu He also took action at the same time. She cast several halos on Chen Yu. The already violent tree roots suddenly became more ferocious, even suppressing the shaking of the earth. Under the effect of the spell, even the fog was torn apart a lot. At this time, Chen Yu suddenly sensed the existence of Li Wei, who had just stepped into his domain. Li Wei, who had been running all the way, was stunned at this moment, and the whole person seemed to be petrified on the spot. In front of him was a rolling wave of tree roots, one wave after another. The monsters hidden in the mist were completely devoured, and none of them could escape. Li Wei thought that this was the big boss that appeared in the black wilderness, and he couldn't help but feel desperate. He couldn't even see where the enemy's body was, so he couldn't fight it at all. But this was the direction Chen Yu and Shu He were heading. Li Wei thought that the two of them might be fighting this terrible monster now, and he had no reason to leave alone. With red eyes and gritted teeth, Li Wei was about to completely boost his strength. But he heard Chen Yu's voice in his ear. "Keep going forward, I will make way for you." After the words fell, the dense tree roots in front suddenly separated a path. Li Wei realized who was behind this terrible tree root and vine attack, and he was numb all over. He remembered the evaluation of Chen Yu that Li Yu had seen at the beginning. He could fight, resist, assist, and have battlefield effects. This battlefield effect is too foul. With such a large-scale spell attack, those tree roots couldn't even kill the monsters in one hit. Simply relying on numbers, the enemies blocking the road can be piled up to death. Li Wei shook his head and rushed into the road specially left by Chen Yu. After a while, he saw the figure of the world tree. Only at this time did Li Wei feel relieved. As long as he was by Chen Yu's side, he felt that his life and safety should not be affected. The Tianqing organization sent an order from the Black Tower, asking you to stop the test and return as soon as possible. As soon as they met, Li Wei informed Shu He of the instructions from the Black Tower. Shu He had no doubts and nodded immediately. The current situation is unclear, and it is indeed a clear choice to withdraw from the Black Wilderness first. Chen Yu did not object, as he himself was not under much pressure, but Shu He and Li Wei were not sure. In the previous wave of horizontal push, he could feel that the ground in the wilderness was already cracking. A disgusting breath kept coming out of the cracks, and the summon tree roots withered as soon as they were touched. The roots of the world tree even had a burning sensation. Chen Yu, who had faced the abyss before, even felt a hint of the abyss from it. This change is definitely related to the abyss. I'm not some innate abyss attracting holy body, am I? Why do I encounter it everywhere? After removing the world tree form, Chen Yu reached out and recalled the Xuan beetle fusion. He grabbed one with each hand, took Shu He and Li Wei and flew towards the road. The change means danger, but danger also means opportunity. First send Shu He and Li Wei out, then he will return to see if he can find any powerful boss. In this situation, the chance of being blown up in the Imperial Bundesliga increases. 0. Please give me flowers. It's a pity that the heart of nature is ineffective here, otherwise why would it be so troublesome? I don't know if it sensed Chen Yu's thoughts, the Emperor Ape Beast spirit suddenly shuddered. The vibration of the Black Wilderness is not only happening where Chen Yu and others are. Most of the Black Wilderness has earthquakes of varying degrees at this time. In the gaps in the ground that had been left, black smoke columns rolled up, and there were roars. The border cities of various forces stationed in the Black Wilderness all sensed the changes. Storm City sounded the alarm at the first time, and then closed the city gates and entered a state of alert. The other countries also acted in the same way, but no one led the army out of the city. Bard and Greyer, who stayed in the stone house, were startled by the vibration and rushed into the wilderness at the first time. The changes came earlier than expected. You go find Bex, and I'll go to meet Shu He. Bard stretched out his hand and pressed the ground, looking up and said to Titan. The two did not waste words and immediately started to act separately. Bard whistled with his hand in his mouth. A red shadow suddenly appeared in the sky in the distance, and it was a red flying dragon. Bard, the god Bull Star, is a dragon knight. And unlike the immature Li Yiping, Bard is not only a third-turn strongman. His mount, the red dragon, is of pure blood, and is the real dragon bloodline. Bard jumped up and rode on the red dragon, rushing out like an arrow from a string, heading straight for Shu He. Because of the black smoke from the cracks, the vision in the Black Wilderness has become even worse. Countless monsters rushed out from the cracks in the ground, screaming and trying to attack Bard. However, the red dragon just showed a contemptuous look, and opened its mouth to spit out a continuous dragon breath. The blazing flames swept across the land, burning all the monsters. The dragon breath from the instinct of the red dragon bloodline also has a certain restraining effect on the black fog in the wilderness. Under the pressure of the sea of fire, the black fog dissipated. Bard immediately saw several black towers looming in the distance. But he found that the situation of these black towers was very bad, and the light flashed, almost without stopping. That is the black tower's attack mode, which will only be activated when the invading enemy is too strong. In this mode, the energy of the lighthouse will be doubled. If it drags on, I am afraid that the lighthouses in the Black Wilderness will be shut down on a large scale. At that time, it will not be as simple as one or two groups in Shuhi's mission. Instead, the entire lighthouse formation in the Black Wilderness will face failure. Bard's face was gloomy. What he should do most now is to patrol all the lighthouses and kill all the monsters outside the lighthouses. But on the other hand, Shuhi and others are not sure whether they are alive or dead, so he can't give up. Especially there is a Chen Yu who can transform into a world tree. The invasion of the abyss before it erupts is always so low-key and weird, and it is hard to guard against. Those black fogs obviously have the function of isolating the breath, otherwise the forces should have been dispatched long ago. After all, the lighthouses responsible for the Tianxing organization are only a part of it. But now, because they have not sensed the abnormality of the lighthouses, the forces of various countries are temporarily on guard and wait and see. By the time they found out something was wrong, it was too late. Bard wanted to curse, but he had no time. Just as he was struggling to make a decision, another black fog exploded in the distance. A golden beetle with a strange appearance appeared in front of him. The red dragon opened its mouth and spurted out a breath of dragon to hit the beetle. Not good. It's Shuhi and the others. Because of the black fog, Zhang saw Shu Wei and Li Wei in Shenzong's hand at this time. He immediately understood that the beetle was transformed by the druid Chen Yu. But the red dragon's move was very fast, and the dragon's breath had sprayed in front of the beetle in the blink of an eye. Chen Yu threw his hands and threw Shuhi and Li Wei away, curling himself into a ball. Boom! The dragon's breath bombarded Chen Yu, burning his shell red, and many shells even cracked and exploded. Although it was only a short moment, this was a dragon pet of the sublimated third-level Dragon Knight. The red dragon's own strength was also at the third-level level. After a breath of dragon's breath, even King Asura didn't dare to say it was okay. Chen Yu's health bar dropped rapidly, and he was about to reach the safety line. He suddenly activated the legendary skill of the Wind Elf Crown, Wind Domain. Wind Domain. Wind Domain excludes other elemental attributes, and creates a world with only wind. The whistling green wind exploded from Chen Yu, expanding a huge spherical area. The red dragon's breath quickly dissipated in this area, and finally completely turned into sparks and disappeared. And Chen Yu had become like charcoal at this time, spewing out a mouthful of white smoke and falling to the ground. This was the most terrible attack Chen Yu had suffered since he awakened his profession. It was just a dragon breath. And it was a dragon breath without follow-up support. It actually burned him to the point of collapse, and the Emperor Ape Beetle was only 1/4 of his health away from exploding. If it exploded here, it would be a huge loss for Chen Yu. Shuhi, Li Wei, and Bard all rushed to Chen Yu. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.